September 1st. I press a row of seeds into cool soil. Then I do the math. 45 days from September 1st lands mid-October. Burlington's first freeze usually shows up sooner. The Weather Service says the first 2 weeks of October, most years. That's my deadline. So every packet on this table has one number that matters: days to harvest. But one crop here treats that whole deadline like a suggestion. 45 days, dinner done. Then the first frost lands right on it, and it just keeps standing there. Growers pull this one out from under actual snow. I'll name it last. Yes, there's an El Nino building. Forecasters say it could push frost later up north. A forecast is not an insurance policy. The calendar is, so we plant today. 15 crops that fit inside 45 days. The frost clock is already running. My balcony sits in Vermont, Zone 5A. Short seasons teach fast lessons here. The rules today are simple. Real day counts, from the pack or the extension office. Rank is what a crop is worth in this race. Speed, food, frost nerve. Every pot is an insurance policy. This month, the premiums are cheap. Let's count. Number 15, garden cress. The fastest food on this whole board, by a mile. Lepidium sativum, a close cousin to watercress and mustard. Peppery, small, absurdly quick. Edible shoots in 1 to 2 weeks. That's not a typo. Weeks, not months. You cut it at 2 to 5 inches tall, like a tiny green lawn. It will sprout on a damp paper towel. School kids use it to learn germination. I grow mine in a shallow clay bowl on the windowsill, barely even soil. Scatter the seed thick. Press it down, keep it damp. That's the whole manual. Let the surface dry out once and the crop's over. Small deal. You resow. It doesn't store. So you don't store it. You just keep sowing, every week. A pinch of seed each Sunday. Fresh bite for your eggs all winter long. Grown indoors, the frost date stops mattering. Cress doesn't even know October exists. In Britain, they put it in egg sandwiches. In Arabia, seeds go in custard. One warning. This is garden cress, not watercress. Watercress wants a stream. This wants a towel. So why is the fastest crop sitting at number 15? Because it's a garnish. You can't build a dinner on cress. You can build a habit on it. Speed alone doesn't win this race. Remember that. The board rewards real food, but as a first win in 14 days. In a pinch, that's everything. Cress opens the count. Now the real meals start lining up behind it. Number 14, dill. The herb that refuses to make you wait for it. Anethum gravulans. Feathery and blue-green. Smells like a pickle jar with big ambitions. Utah State's fact sheet says you can pick leaves anytime after seedlings emerge. Read that again. No finish line at all. You steal from dill as it grows. Full size takes 6 to 8 weeks. You'll be eating long before that. It runs a taproot, so give it a deep pot. One seed's worth of respect. Sun, light water. Overwater dill and powdery mildew moves in like a bad tenant. Crowd it, or cook it in leftover heat, and it bolts to flower early. September works in its favor. Cool air keeps dill in the leaf business longer. The ASPCA lists dill as non-toxic for dogs, cats, and horses. Rare that. So your cat can audit this pot. For once, nobody has to care. Dill is hardy. Utah State says it tolerates cold winters better than you'd think. A light frost won't end the story. The frost clock bothers dill less than most. When it does flower, keep the heads. Hang them upside down in paper bags. Seeds drop, you bottle them. That's pickle spice for a full year. The leaves freeze well too. Snip, bag, freezer. Summer flavor filed under insurance. 14th place because seasoning isn't supper. But supper without it is just calories. Dill feeds morale. Next up, a famously slow starter that's worth the wait. Number 13, cilantro. The one crop you must sow on day 1. Today, Coriandrum sativum. 2 harvests in one plant. Leaves now, coriander seed later. Here's the catch. The seed can sit 3 weeks underground before it even moves. Utah State puts germination at about 21 days. That's nearly half our window. So cilantro goes in the same hour the window opens. There's no negotiating. Use a deep container. Cilantro runs a taproot and sulks in shallow trays. Keep the soil under 75 degrees. September handles that part for free. Summer cilantro bolts the moment you start liking it. Fall cilantro actually stays. In warm states, Utah State literally says plant it in fall. This is its season. Harvest when the leaves stand 4 to 6 inches tall. Cut, don't yank. Take the outer stems and the center keeps producing. Salsa stays on schedule. Some people taste soap in cilantro. That's genetics, not your cooking. Truce accepted. If it bolts anyway, don't mourn it. Let the seed heads dry right there. Bag them, hang them, shake. Coriander for the spice shelf. Second pantry, same pot. The leaves freeze or dry just fine. I freeze. Dried cilantro is a rumor of itself. 13th, because it makes you wait underground while the brassicas sprint right past. Still, a racer that hands you 2 separate finish lines earns its spot. Sow at first, forget it, get paid twice. Next, a gold rush survivor. Number 12, Claytonia, miner's lettuce. America's own cool weather salad green, with receipts. Claytonia perfoliata, native to the West. Round little leaves, stems right through them. During the gold rush, miners ate it to keep scurvy off their backs. Vitamin C in a weed by the diggings. That's history, not a health pitch. Pine Tree lists it at 37 days. Inside our window with room to spare. It germinates in cool soil, 4 to 14 days. 55 degrees is happiness. That's the trick. Don't sow it into August heat. September soil suits it fine. A wide, shallow bowl in my balcony's shady corner. It has never complained. Part shade is fine. This is a woodland edge plant, not a sun worshiper. Cut the leaves and it branches into more. A polite, renewable salad bowl. Mild taste, no bite at all. The anti-mustard on a board full of mustards. Frost? It mostly shrugs it off. Cold season salad is exactly its job description. Here's the part I like best. Let one plant flower at season's end. It self-seeds freely. The bowl replants itself while you're busy doing nothing. A salad that renews its own insurance policy. My favorite kind of paperwork. 12th place. It's light eating. You won't ever fill a freezer with it. But a native green that kept miners standing will survive your balcony fine. History's salad in 37 days. Next up, a cabbage that's been to space. Number 11, Tokyo Bekana. The lettuce that isn't lettuce and doesn't care. It's a loose-leaf Chinese cabbage, brassica rapa, frilly, lime green, and ridiculously tender. Full size in about 45 days. Baby leaves show up weeks earlier than that. Now the resume item. NASA grew Tokyo Bekana on the space station. It was the 5th crop harvested in their veggie units back in 2017. NASA screened a long list of leafy candidates. This one made the cut. If it can grow off-planet, your little balcony is not the hard part. Mine lives in the moss-green trough. Full sun, steady water, nothing clever. Steady water is the actual instruction. Grown fast and wet, it eats like lettuce. Let it struggle dry, and the leaves turn from silk into burlap. Why grow it over lettuce? Lettuce sulks at frost. This family mostly doesn't. You cut the outer leaves and the middle quietly keeps making more salad. Or take the whole head and re-sow the trough. 45 days, another round. Mild enough for a raw salad, sturdy enough for a 30-second stir-fry. One trough became my default sandwich layer by week 5. Quietly essential. 11th, because it's still salad weight food. The heavier feeders are coming up next. But when store lettuce looks sad in November, you'll remember this trough. Space-tested and frost season approved. Next up, the vegetable shaped like a satellite. Number 10, Kohlrabi. The first crop on the board you can call dinner. It's a cabbage cousin that swells its stem into a globe above the soil. It looks like a small green Sputnik that parked itself in your pot. Utah State lists the quick varieties like Quick Star at about 40 days flat. The old Vienna types run 60. Wrong packet, and you lose the race. So Kohlrabi is a read-the-label crop. The variety name is the Deadline. It's shallow-rooted. Utah State says so themselves. Containers suit it just fine. My gray grow bag holds 6 inches apart, 1 to 2 inches of water weekly. You harvest at 2 to 3 inches across. That is the entire secret. Wait for a softball and you get wood. Pride costs you the crop. Utah State's tasting notes: turnip flavor, water chestnut texture. Oddly, that's accurate. Peel it, slice it, salt it. Eats like an apple that chose a savory career. The leaves cook like any other green, so nothing in the bag is wasted. Cool weather keeps it tender. A light frost won't scare the grown plants off. Just don't let a hard freeze hit the babies. Young plants can quit. In the fridge, the globes hold for weeks. Storage food, not just salad. 10th place. Real calories, real crunch, 40 days. The race just got serious. 1 bag, 3 globes, 0 excuses. The board's about to get stranger. Quick pause. If a frost deadline focuses your gardening, subscribe. It keeps this balcony reporting. 1 tap. That's the whole transaction. Cheaper than any seed packet you'll buy. And stay for number 1. The snow crop is still out there, waiting. Number 9. Chijimisai. A green most seed racks haven't even caught up with. Baker Creek calls it a cross between Tatsoi and Komatsuna. Remember both names. Crinkled, savoyed leaves with a velvet feel and a light umami finish. Now for the honest part. This one needs about 55 days for full size. 55 is not 45. I can hear you rereading this video's title. Here's the play. You eat Chijimisai young, teen leaves inside the window. Cut young leaves along the way. Take the full rosette after the frost. Because here's its trick. It's listed both heat and cold tolerant. Year-round. A light frost doesn't end this plant. Your deadline is not its deadline, so it's the asterisk on the board. Sown now, it pays you twice. Growing this one is standard brassica work. Rich soil, steady water, some sun. 4 to 6 hours of light will do. Half-shade balconies, you're in. Trial growers found it shrugs off flea beetles better than its cousins do. On a board covered in flea beetle candy. That's a quiet superpower. You cook it exactly like spinach. Velvet leaves, no drama, no bolt panic. 9th place, docked for the 55-day fine print. Honesty costs it 3 spots. But a crop that carries you into winter is still insurance, not decoration. The mystery cross earns its keep. Next, a vegetable named after a number. Number 8, broccoli raab. And no, it is not baby broccoli. Different crop. Brassica rapa again, the Ruvo group. Italy's bitter, beloved green with buds. The variety I run is called Quarantina. That's Italian for about 40. 40 as in days. The Italians named this crop after its own schedule. Seed sellers listed at 40 to 45 days. The name checks out. There's a Sessantina too, 60 days. A whole calendar written in vegetables. You eat all of it. Leaves, stems, and the small broccoli-looking buds. Don't wait for supermarket broccoli heads. Buds stay small. Small is correct. Heat makes the little buds fling open, and the flavor falls apart fast, which is exactly why fall suits it. Cool air holds the buds shut. Pick the center shoot first. Side shoots follow for 2 to 4 weeks. One tall black nursery pot by the railing keeps a skillet in business. Yes, it's bitter. That's the whole point. Garlic, oil, hot pan, argument over. Cool weather keeps the flavor civil. October raab is the polite version. Blanch and freeze the extra, the old Italian way. Winter greens, filed. 8th place, fast, complete, and it regrows after every cut for weeks. A vegetable that ships with its own deadline printed right in the name. Quarantina keeps its promise. Halfway point. Time to check your own clock. So choy do comment time. What's your first frost date, And what zone are you in? Vermont here. First 2 weeks of October, most years. I read every answer. And the under the snow crop at number 1? Still coming. Keep your gloves on. Number 7, mustard greens. The crop with a volume knob for spice. Brassica juncea. My pick is red giant. Burgundy leaves, built-in warning color. High mowing, a Vermont seed house lists it. 23 days baby, 45 full. Both numbers land inside our window. 2 crops in one sowing, really. Here's the knob. Young and cool, mustard eats mild. Old and stressed, it bites. North Carolina State puts it plainly. Stress makes the flavor unpleasantly strong. So fall is the cheat code here. Cool air, steady water, gentle greens. Grow it in a wide tub. Cut baby leaves from about 3 weeks in. Or let a few plants run on to full size for braising leaves. Flea beetles love mustard babies. Row cover from day 1 solves most of it. That white fabric also buys 4 to 8 degrees against frost, says Wisconsin's extension. 1 cloth, 2 jobs, bugs and frost. That's the kind of gear I keep. A note for the animal people. Mustard is flagged as a problem for horses. No horses on my balcony. But if livestock share your place, skip it. Frost itself? The curly types handle it better than the flat leaf ones do. Pickled, braised, or raw when young. 1 tub covers all 3 jobs. 7th place. Big leaves, a fast clock, and it seasons itself. Efficient. Turn the spice knob wisely. Next, the machine that never stops cutting. Number 6, Mizuna. The closest thing this board has to a machine. Brassica rapa, variety japonica. Feathery, serrated leaves with very mild mustard manners. The almanac lists baby Mizuna as ready in about 20 days. But speed isn't the trick here. The trick is what happens after you cut. You shear a handful an inch above the soil line. It grows back. Cut and come again, round after round of it. 1 sowing becomes a stack of salads. Johnny's catalog language is quick growth and productivity. Translation, it will not quit. Mine hangs in the long gray box on the railing. Prime real estate. Brooklyn Botanic Garden literally wrote a guide on Mizuna in window boxes. City plant, balcony plant, bunker plant. It adapts to whatever you've got. It handles heat and cold better than most salad greens do. Team player, upright to about a foot tall. Then it flops elegant over the box. The mistakes are few. Cut too low and you shave off the regrowth crowns. Always leave an inch of stubble. That stubble is the next harvest. It won't store long in a bag. It stores fine as a living plant. A window box that refills itself every couple of weeks. In a pinch, that's everything. 6th place only because it's salad, not stew. Sheer volume though, unmatched. The machine keeps on cutting. Next, the most famous name on the board. Number 5, Arugula. The famous one, and the one everyone buys wrong. Quick disclosure, there's wild arugula on this balcony already. Different plant. Truly. Wild arugula is Diplotaxis, a slow, spicy perennial. It got its own video. Today's racer is Aruca, the annual garden arugula. Different genus, different job. Cornell says Aruca can be ready 4 weeks after seeding. A true sprinter, 1/4 inch deep, an inch apart, thin to 6. Cornell's numbers, my chipped pot. Now the flavor physics. Heat and drought stress crank the pepper way up. It's why summer arugula insults you and fall arugula tries to make friends. September sowing means cool nights and steady water. The leaves come up civilized. Keep sowing a pinch every 2 or 3 weeks until a month before frost. That last sowing date matters. Cornell draws the line at 4 weeks out. If it bolts anyway, eat the flowers. Peppery little bonuses, not a failure. Pests? Flea beetles again. The same row cover earns its keep again. You cut the outer leaves and the crown keeps dealing for several weeks. Sandwiches, pasta, pizza landing pad. Arugula is a job title, not a garnish. 5th, famous for a reason, fast beyond argument, and better in fall than ever. Buy the packet that says Aruca. Now you know what the label means. The sprinter takes fifth. Next, a heavyweight that laughs at 10 degrees. Number 4. Yukina Savoy, Tatsoi's big cousin. Remember that name from earlier? A loose-headed Chinese cabbage type. Dark blistered leaves, greener stems, and real presence. 21 days for baby leaves, 45 to full size. Fits our window twice. Full size means a plant about a foot tall. That's cooking green tonnage. And the cold numbers get silly. Market growers report 10 degrees, outdoors, unprotected. 10 degrees, Fahrenheit. Your first frost is a light handshake to this plant. One Virginia farm's records run it December through March inside a plastic tunnel. So number 4 finishes the race, then just works the off-season anyway. Mine grows in a wide terracotta pan up on the wood bench. Space it about a foot apart, or crowd it a little for smaller heads. Standard brassica care. Rich soil, even water, and the beetle cloth early. Cook it like you'd cook bok choy or spinach. Sweeter after cold nights. Take outer leaves for weeks on end, or the whole head for one big pan. Common mistake. Treating it like tatsoi and giving it a cramped little bowl. It wants elbow room. Feed the pan, and it feeds you back. Every pot is an insurance policy. This one's the extended coverage plan. 4th place, and honestly, it was arguing for the podium all week. Big, calm, cold proof. Next, the crop that replaces spinach without the drama. Number 3. Komatsuna, the Japanese mustard spinach. This board's certified no-drama workhorse. Brassica rapa, variety per viridis. Its spinach flavor filed under mustard family paperwork. Real spinach sulks, bolts early, and files formal complaints. Komatsuna just grows anyway. Baker Creek's numbers. Sprouts in 5 to 8 days. Baby leaves near month's end. Full plants in 45 to 50 days. Cut it young up north. The Baker Creek listing answers the frost question directly. Frost hardy? Simply yes. The name comes from Komatsugawa, an old Edo River district. So the story goes, a shogun tasted the local greens and asked for a name. They gave the rivers. 3 centuries later, it's still an everyday green in Japan, Endurance noted. Mine fills the dark trough on the low table. Sun for most hours. Cool soil, 55 to 70 degrees, is where it does its best work. Sow a 1/4 inch deep, thin as it grows. Eat every single thinning. Harvest the outer leaves and the plant keeps dealing new ones for weeks. Stir fry, soup, salted pickle. In Japan, it's a staple, not a novelty. Blanch and freeze extra bunches like spinach. The freezer won't know the difference. Mistake to skip, letting it parch in a heat snap. Keep water boring and regular. 3rd place, fast enough, tough enough, and it feeds like a main crop. The spinach substitute that doesn't quit. 2 crops left, and both are family. Number 2, bok choy. The one crop your grocery list already understands completely. Brassica rapa chinensis, white spoon stems, dark leaves, 0 waste between them. Minnesota's extension calls it a fall crop, matured in September's shortening days. That's not a warning. It's an appointment, and we're right on time. Pick a baby type for pots here. Meiching choy runs 40 days. Full-size types can run longer, so again, the label is the deadline. 3 little heads share my wide clay bowl. 12-inch spacing math, dwarf edition. Minnesota says the seedlings are flea beetle candy. Cover them from day 1. Warm spells push bok choy to bolt. September cools that risk by the week. Once it bolts, leaf growth is over. So we don't gamble on late heat. Water steady. Those crisp white ribs are mostly water you arranged in advance. Cold-wise, it's tolerant, with surprisingly long harvest periods. Seed house language verified. With some protection, it can even overwinter. Row cover again. Cheap armor. Harvest whole heads at baby size, or peel outer stalks as you need them. The stems cook like a vegetable, the leaves like a green. 2 textures, 1 plant. Stir-fry it with garlic while the neighbors microwave their regret. 40 days, remember. It stands in the pot for weeks in cool air. Outdoor refrigerator, free. It takes second place. Complete food, 40 days, cold tolerant, and grocery store famous. Only one plant on this balcony outranks it, and you've waited long enough. Number 1. Tatsoi. The champion crop that treats your frost date as scenery. Brassica rapa, variety narinosa, a flat, glossy rosette of little spoon leaves. The clock first. 21 days to baby leaves. 45 to full cooking size. Sown September 1st. That's full dinner plates by mid-October. And then comes the part that finally got it the crown. The cold. A Virginia market grower puts Tatsoi's limit around 10 degrees Fahrenheit outdoors. California's master gardeners are more careful, cold tolerant to about 20. Either way, your first frost at 32 barely registers as weather to this plant. The gardening references note it can be harvested out from under actual snow. Picture that for a second. December. You brush snow aside and cut dinner. Every other deadline on this board died weeks ago. Tatsoi's still open for business. Growing it is almost embarrassingly simple. Wide, shallow pan, scatter seed, thin, water. Give it room and it lies flat. A green dinner plate a foot across. Crowd it and it sits up like a little vase. Both versions eat well. The flavor's mild, sweet, cabbage adjacent. Buttery texture when you cook it lightly. It needs no storage plan. The pot is the storage. Harvest is the withdrawal. Late sowings just grow smaller plants, still food. The race grades kindly here. So that's the champion. Not the fastest. The one the finish line can't stop. A crop that finishes in 45 days, then ignores winter's opening argument. One shallow pan of insurance that outlasts every policy on this board. Keep that. That's the board. 15 contracts, 14 clean, 1 honest asterisk. Fair enough. This strong El Nino may buy the north a few extra days. May. Plant like it won't. Anything the forecast gifts you is a bonus harvest. If this list gets seeds and soil this week, the subscribe button's right there. Winter's the next opponent. This balcony has cold weather videos waiting for you. Comment with the very first crop you're sowing. I'll be reading with my coffee. 1 packet, 1 pan. 45 honest days. That's all it takes to start. 1 pot before the frost, 0 excuses after it. Start small, keep the mug. But don't go anywhere just yet, because our Container Orchard Masterclass is far from over. Right now, let's dive into the next 15 vegetables and herbs that thrive in containers more than garden. Let's get started.
Kicking off our list at number 15, shiso, also known as perilla. Most gardeners think they have to choose between growing something beautiful and growing something productive. Shiso refuses to make you choose. If you want a plant that brings both stunning rustic visual drama and an endless harvest to your patio, this is it. It produces massive, jagged purple and green leaves that look like they belong in a botanical garden. But make no mistake, it grows with the aggression of a weed. Because its growth rate is so explosive, it will quickly become root-bound in a small pot. You must give it at least a 3 to 5 gallon container. You can harvest the large outer leaves every single day for wraps, salads, and garnishes, and the plant simply pushes out more from the center. You won't have to wait long. Shiso is ready for its first harvest in just 40 to 60 days, and you can pick leaves continuously until the first winter frost. It's not just about aesthetics. Shiso is a nutritional powerhouse loaded with iron, calcium, and omega-3 fatty acids. Use those massive leaves to wrap grilled meats, slice them into fresh salads, or steep them into an antioxidant-rich tea. Here is a fascinating fact. In traditional Japanese cuisine, shiso isn't just used for flavor. It contains a powerful natural preservative called perolaldehyde, a compound that the American Chemical Society has scientifically proven to exhibit potent antimicrobial effects against foodborne pathogens. that acts as an antidote to food poisoning, which is exactly why it has been paired with raw seafood for centuries. But there is one critical rule to keep the harvest going. You must strictly pinch off the flower spikes the moment they appear. If you let shiso go to seed, the plant assumes its life purpose is fulfilled and will completely stop producing leaves. Keep the soil consistently moist, give it a light dose of organic fertilizer every month, and this plant will serve you non-stop until the deep frost. Moving right along to number 14, French tarragon. This is the culinary secret of high-end kitchens. Most people assume that to grow premium herbs, you need a traditional, perfectly tilled garden bed. In reality, growing French tarragon in a container on a spacious balcony is actually much better than putting it in the ground. French tarragon is a relentless producer, but it has one fatal weakness. It absolutely despises wet feet. Winter rot kills more tarragon than pests ever could. By putting it in a 5-gallon pot, you take complete control over its environment. You must mix a heavy handful of perlite or coarse sand into your potting soil before planting to guarantee rapid drainage. Once established, this herb is a cut-and-come-again machine. You simply snip the aromatic sprigs continuously throughout the summer. Patience is minimal here. You can start lightly snipping the aromatic leaves just 6 to 8 weeks after planting, continuing your harvest all the way through late fall. This herb is rich in manganese and iron, acting as a powerful natural digestive aid. In the kitchen, it is the irreplaceable soul of classic béarnaise sauce, perfect for roasting with poultry, fish, or steeping to create incredible infused vinegars. Here is a fascinating fact validated by the Royal Horticultural Society, RHS. True French tarragon cannot be grown from seed because its flowers are completely sterile. That means every single French tarragon plant in the world today is a living clone, propagated by root division from an ancient original plant. And here is the best part. The more you trim it, the bushier and more productive it gets. Even better, every 2 years, you can simply pull it out of the container, take a sharp knife, split the root ball exactly in half, and you suddenly have double the plants. Sliding into the number 13 spot is a hidden treasure: peanuts. Most people think peanuts belong strictly in massive open agricultural fields. They assume you need acres of loose dirt to get a meaningful harvest. That is completely false. A spacious balcony or a backyard patio is the perfect place to grow them, provided you understand how the plant actually works. Peanuts do not grow on roots. They grow from pegs that drop down from the yellow flowers, reach the soil, and bury themselves into the earth to form the nut. Therefore, you do not need a deep pot. You need a wide one. A wide, shallow tub or a 15-inch diameter planter is ideal. The soil must be incredibly loose, sandy, and light so the delicate pegs can penetrate easily. Do not use heavy, compacted compost. Keep the soil slightly moist, but never soggy. You plant them. You wait. You water. And at the end of the season, you get the immense, deeply satisfying experience of pulling up the entire green plant to reveal a massive, hidden harvest of fresh peanuts right on your patio. Unlike continuous harvest herbs, peanuts demand a long game. They require 100 to 130 frost-free days to mature, and you'll know exactly when to pull the ultimate harvest when the green leaves begin to turn yellow and wither in early autumn. Beneath that soil lies a superfood packed with dense plant protein, healthy fats, biotin, and vitamin E. You can boil them fresh for a savory snack, roast them with sea salt, or grind them into the freshest, richest peanut butter you will ever taste. Bet you didn't know this. The peanut isn't actually a nut at all. It is a legume with a brilliant survival mechanism known in botany as geocarpy, a process heavily documented by the Botanical Society of America. The plant literally buries its own fertilized flowers underground to hide its developing offspring from hungry herbivores. At number 12, we have borage. If you want a container that becomes the vibrant, beating heart of your backyard ecosystem, you must plant borage. Most container crops focus only on leaves or roots. Borage is an unstoppable flowering machine. It pushes out hundreds of star-shaped, bright blue, edible flowers that taste surprisingly exactly like fresh cucumber. However, borage grows a very long, aggressive taproot. You cannot cram it into a small decorative pot on a windowsill. It needs a deep, 5-gallon container to truly thrive. While it is incredibly drought-tolerant and tough, to get that relentless, continuous bloom, you need to water it deeply whenever the top 2 inches of soil dry out. Harvest the young leaves and fresh flowers daily for salads and summer drinks. The wait is incredibly short. You can start plucking the cucumber-flavored leaves in just 4 weeks, with that endless explosion of blue flowers following right behind at week 8. These brilliant flowers are packed with vitamin C and GLA, a rare fatty acid that dramatically reduces inflammation in the body. In fact, clinical profiles from the Mount Sinai Health System verify that GLA is scientifically proven to alleviate joint pain and severe systemic inflammation. Freeze the star-shaped flowers into ice cubes to elevate your summer cocktails, or toss the young leaves into salads for a refreshing, cooling crunch. Here is a fascinating historical fact. Ancient Roman gladiators and Celtic warriors used to steep borage flowers in their wine before going into battle, firmly believing the plant bestowed absolute courage and banished all fear. But the real magic of borage is what it does for the rest of your balcony. It will draw every bee, butterfly, and pollinator in the neighborhood straight to your containers, skyrocketing the production of every other plant around it. At number 11, we have Gotu kola. Sometimes the most productive plants aren't the tallest ones. They're the ones that refuse to stop spreading. Gotu kola is a creeping, medicinal powerhouse that thrives in the exact environments that would easily drown other herbs. It naturally grows in humid, swampy conditions across Asia, making it the perfect candidate for a container where you have absolute control over the water. Instead of a deep pot, use a wide, shallow bowl. Use a dense potting mix that holds moisture and never, ever let it dry out. You can even place a saucer of water directly under the pot to keep the roots constantly saturated. Keep it in the dappled shade of your larger patio plants. It hates the scorching afternoon sun. As it creeps over the edges of the pot, simply take a pair of scissors and give it a haircut. It will rapidly push out a fresh, dense carpet of new, highly nutritious leaves in a matter of days. This creeper wastes absolutely no time. From a healthy transplant, you can begin harvesting your first medicinal leaves in just 3 to 4 weeks, and it will produce year-round if protected from the cold. This plant is legendary in natural medicine, heavily studied for its high concentration of triterpenoids, which boost brain function, improve memory, and stimulate collagen production. According to pharmacological reviews by the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation, these highly active triterpenoids, specifically azaticoside, act as powerful neuroprotectors in clinical trials. Blend the fresh leaves into your morning green smoothies, juice them, or steep them into a brain-boosting herbal tea. Here is a fascinating fact. In Sri Lankan folklore, ancient healers discovered this plant's brain-boosting power by observing wild elephants, animals famous for their flawless memories and incredibly long lifespans, constantly seeking out and eating Gotu kola in the jungle. And just like that, we're a third of the way through our list. Which vegetable has impressed you the most so far? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. All right, let's keep going. Breaking into the top 10 is the plant that thrives on absolute neglect. Number 10, nasturtium. This is the beautiful, overflowing cascade of the container garden. Both the lily pad-like leaves and the brilliant jewel-toned flowers are entirely edible, offering a bold, peppery kick that chefs love. This plant delivers almost instant gratification. Both the spicy leaves and the brilliant flowers are ready to be harvested in a mere 30 to 40 days, and will keep blooming aggressively right up until the frost kills them. Every part of this plant is a defender of your immune system, packed with high levels of vitamin C and lutein for eye health. Use the leaves as a spicy substitute for arugula, garnish dishes with the flowers, or pickle the green seed pods into a fiery, poor man's caper. A fact you probably didn't know: during World War II, when black pepper was heavily rationed and nearly impossible to find, people ingeniously dried and ground the seeds of the nasturtium plant as a spicy, flawless substitute. Nasturtiums are famous for trailing beautifully down the sides of large pots or hanging baskets. But many beginners make a catastrophic mistake when growing them. They treat nasturtiums like tomatoes. They feed them. Here is the most important rule for massive production, a technique directly backed by the agricultural experts at the Cornell University Cooperative Extension. Do not fertilize nasturtiums. If you give this plant rich compost or high nitrogen fertilizer, it will produce a massive, lush jungle of green leaves and absolutely zero flowers. Plant them in poor, cheap potting soil. Put them in a 3-gallon pot and let the soil dry out slightly between waterings. The nasturtium operates on a very specific survival mechanism. The harder the soil, the poorer the nutrients, the more aggressively it blooms. Treat it poorly, and it will reward you with months of endless flowers. Down at number 9, we have horseradish. This is not a delicate herb. This is the beast in the pot. In a traditional backyard garden, planting horseradish is often a nightmare. It spreads relentlessly underground and takes over entire garden beds, becoming almost impossible to eradicate. That is exactly why you must grow it in a container. But you cannot use a normal pot. You need a massive one. A 10 to 15-gallon half barrel is perfect. Horseradish needs deep, loose soil to push its thick, spicy taproots downward without hitting a wall. It is a heavy drinker, so you must keep the soil consistently damp during the peak heat of summer. It will grow massive, dramatic green leaves all season. Then, when winter approaches and the leaves die back, tip the barrel over. Snap off the largest, thickest roots for your kitchen. While you can sparingly snip the green leaves during the summer, the true root harvest requires patience. The massive taproots need 140 to 160 days underground and are best dug up in late autumn, right after the very first frost concentrates their fiery flavor. That intense spice comes from glucosinolates, powerful biological compounds that clear your sinuses instantly and kickstart your immune system. Grate the fresh, pungent root directly over roasted meats, blend it into a fiery cocktail, or use it to make a devastatingly fresh, authentic wasabi substitute. Here is a fascinating fact. An intact horseradish root has absolutely no smell or spice. According to the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry, the legendary heat is only created through a violent chemical reaction between glucosinolates and an enzyme called myrosinase that occurs the exact moment the plant cells are crushed and exposed to oxygen. And the real magic? Simply take a 2-inch piece of the remaining root, drop it back into the soil, and it will regrow the following spring without fail. It is a permanent, indestructible food source. Number 8. Water spinach, or kangkong. Every container gardener knows the midsummer struggle. The brutal heat arrives, the lettuce melts, the kale wilts, and the garden stops producing. That is precisely when water spinach is just waking up. This semi-aquatic plant is the absolute undisputed champion of hot, humid weather. Because it naturally grows in swamps and slow-moving rivers, you have to break the ultimate cardinal rule of container gardening. You do not need drainage. In fact, a large, sealed plastic tub filled with heavy potting mix and water, essentially creating pure mud, is exactly what this plant wants. It is a voracious, unstoppable feeder. Give it a liquid nitrogen fertilizer every 2 weeks, and the hollow vines will literally explode with growth. You can cut the thick stems down to just a few inches above the soil line, and within days, they will shoot right back up. You can harvest heavy baskets of fresh greens every single week until the weather turns cold. Speed is its absolute superpower. You can make your very first massive cut just 3 to 4 weeks after planting, and the vines recover so violently fast that you can repeat that heavy harvest every 10 to 14 days. These hollow vines are an absolute goldmine of iron, calcium, and vitamin A. In the kitchen, it is the undisputed king of Asian stir-fries. Flash fry the stems with crushed garlic and oyster sauce for a legendary, nutrient-dense side dish that retains an incredible crunch. A fact you probably didn't know: water spinach grows so violently fast, up to 4 inches in a single day under ideal conditions, that the USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, APHIS, actually heavily regulates it as an invasive noxious weed in several states because it can completely choke out wild rivers. At number 7, we have lovage. Imagine the sharp, savory flavor of celery, but amplified, growing on a plant that simply refuses to quit. Lovage is a towering architectural giant of an herb. It can easily reach 5 to 6 feet tall, making it a stunning visual centerpiece for a spacious balcony. Because of its massive size and incredibly deep roots, a flimsy plastic pot will not work. You need a heavy 10 to 15-gallon container so a strong gust of wind doesn't blow the entire plant over. Lovage loves rich, loamy soil, so you must mix in plenty of compost before planting. It is also incredibly cold-hardy, often surviving harsh winters right in the pot. The best part? You only need one single plant. You snip the strong, hollow stems and leaves continuously for soups, broths, and stews. You can start snipping the outer stalks of a young transplant in just 4 to 6 weeks. From that moment on, it is a relentless producer from early spring all the way to the late autumn frost. Lovage is loaded with B vitamins and quercetin, acting as a powerful natural diuretic to flush toxins from your body. Because the flavor is so intense, a single hollow stem can transform a bland potato soup or a hearty winter stew into a culinary masterpiece. Here is a fascinating fact documented in the historical archives of the Herb Society of America. The hollow stems of lovage are so sturdy and flavorful that ancient Roman travelers would cut them and use them as natural edible drinking straws to infuse their water and wine on long journeys. Every time you cut it back, it responds by pushing out lush, tender new growth from the base. It is the ultimate cut and come again perennial. Coming in at number 6, taro, also known as colocasia. If you have a spacious backyard patio and you want to turn it into a high-calorie food forest, this is your plant. Taro produces massive, dramatic elephant ear leaves that instantly give your garden a lush, tropical jungle vibe. But while the leaves look beautiful above ground, below the soil, the plant is silently producing a dense, starchy harvest. Taro loves water. It demands massive containers. Think a 15 or 20-gallon tub. In fact, to keep it happy, you can place the heavy pot inside a larger saucer, constantly filled with water, to ensure the roots never dry out. It is an incredibly heavy feeder. You must mix in a slow-release organic fertilizer at planting and top dress with thick compost mid-season. The beauty of container taro is its dual harvest. You can continuously harvest the young, unfurling outer stalks for cooking throughout the entire summer, while the massive tubers continue to swell beneath the soil for a massive autumn harvest. This plant operates on a brilliant dual timeline. You can start harvesting the young outer stalks continuously after just 8 weeks, while the survival tubers quietly swell underground, requiring a full 7 to 8 months before the grand late autumn harvest. This produces a vital survival crop, dense tubers packed with complex carbohydrates, dietary fiber, vitamin E, and potassium. But a critical warning: taro leaves and tubers contain calcium oxalate crystals and must be cooked thoroughly before eating. Once boiled or roasted, the tubers become a creamy, nutty staple, while the massive leaves can be steamed to wrap savory meat. Here is a fascinating fact. Taro is widely considered by archaeologists to be one of the oldest cultivated crops in human history. According to UNESCO archaeological data from the Cook Swamp site in Papua New Guinea, researchers found definitive evidence that it has been successfully grown and consumed for over 10,000 years, and famously used to fuel ancient Polynesian voyagers across the Pacific Ocean. So, we've made our way through 10 vegetables and herbs on our list. Personally, the one that impresses me the most is the nasturtium. Not only is it a stunning flower for decorating the garden, but it also provides a fantastic, nutritious harvest. Do you agree with me? Let me know down in the comments. Now, let's move on to the top 5 on today's list. Make sure to stick around until the very end, because the final plant is going to completely surprise you. At number 5, we have oca, the New Zealand yam. This is the autumn surprise of the container garden. While most vegetables are dying back and giving up as the days get shorter, oca is just getting ready to perform. The plant itself is gorgeous, forming a dense bush of clover-like leaves and bright red stems. But the real prize lies underground: incredibly crisp, tangy, neon-colored tubers. Oca only begins to form these underground tubers when the daylight hours drop significantly in late autumn, meaning it needs a very long growing season. A 7 to 10-gallon heavy-duty grow bag is perfect. The secret to a massive, overflowing harvest is a technique called hilling. Just like potatoes, as the oca plant grows taller, you must continuously add more soil to the container, burying the lower stems. Keep the soil moist but well drained. Protect the leaves from the very first light frosts, and you will dump out a literal mountain of vibrant, jewel-like tubers in early winter. Patience is mandatory for this autumn surprise. Oca requires a long 6 to 8 month growing season, and you absolutely cannot harvest until the daylight hours drop significantly in late autumn or early winter, which is the exact trigger for the tubers to form. Oca is a nutritional anomaly, a low-calorie carbohydrate loaded with vitamin C, potassium, and iron. Unlike potatoes, you don't even have to cook oca. Slice the vibrant tubers raw into salads for a lemony, apple-like crunch, or roast them whole until they become sweet and savory. A fact you probably didn't know: in its native Andes mountains, indigenous farmers have a brilliant trick, which was thoroughly documented in the botanical report Lost Crops of the Incas by the National Research Council. After harvesting, they leave the oca tubers out in the freezing, high-altitude sunlight for a few days, which magically converts the plant's natural organic acids into pure, sweet sugar. Number 4. Yacon, the Bolivian sunroot. Prepare to be absolutely shocked by how much food a single pot can produce. Yukon is a towering giant that yields massive, sweet, crunchy tubers that taste like a refreshing cross between an apple and a watermelon. Because this plant will easily reach 5 to 6 feet tall with massive, velvet-like leaves, a standard pot is useless. You need a massive 15 to 20-gallon container or a heavy-duty fabric grow bag. It requires incredibly rich, loamy soil and a tremendous amount of water. During the blazing summer months, those massive leaves will transpire water at an astonishing rate, so daily deep watering is absolutely non-negotiable. If it dries out, the yield plummets. But if you keep it fed and watered, the payoff is staggering. At the end of the season, when the top finally dies back from the frost, one single pot can easily yield 10 to 20 pounds of sweet, juicy roots. This giant plays the long game. It needs a full 6 to 7 months of growth, and the golden rule is to wait until the first heavy frost completely kills the top velvet leaves. That is your exact signal to dig up the massive winter harvest. Yukon is a literal miracle for your metabolism. The massive, crunchy tubers are packed with inulin, a prebiotic fiber that tastes sweet but has a near zero glycemic index, meaning it won't spike your blood sugar, a mechanism scientifically validated by clinical studies from the National Institutes of Health. Slice the juicy roots raw into fruit salads. Juice them for a naturally sweet drink, or roast them for a diet-friendly dessert. A fact you probably didn't know. The ancient Incas called Yukon the water root. Because the tubers are up to 90% water, indigenous messengers running across the arid Andes Mountains would dig them up purely to quench their thirst. At number 3, we have stevia. Why buy chemically processed sweeteners when you can grow a continuous, natural sugar factory right on your balcony? Stevia leaves are incredibly sweet, and the plant actually thrives in container life. A 3 to 5 gallon pot is perfectly sufficient for a massive harvest. But stevia requires a delicate watering balance. It hates drying out and wilts quickly, but its roots will rapidly rot in completely soggy soil. You must use a premium, well-draining potting mix and water it only when the top inch of soil feels dry to the touch. To get a relentless, continuous harvest, you must be ruthless. You must continuously pinch off the growing tips. This stops the plant from getting tall, spindly, and flowering, forcing it to branch out into a dense, highly productive shrub. Snip the leaves, dry them, crush them, and you have an endless supply of natural sweetness all season long. Your natural sugar factory is operational almost immediately. You can start picking sweet leaves in 40 to 60 days, though the absolute peak sweetness occurs in late summer, right before the plant attempts to flower. The leaves contain steviol glycosides, compounds up to 300 times sweeter than sugar, but with absolutely 0 calories and 0 impact on your blood sugar. The European Food Safety Authority, EFSA, confirms that because the human body lacks the enzymes to break down these molecules, they pass through completely unabsorbed. You can use this fine powder as an endless, natural way to sweeten your coffee, tea. Here is a fascinating fact. Long before it became a modern diet trend, the Guarani people of South America used stevia for over 1,500 years, calling it sweet herb and using it specifically to balance the bitter taste of their traditional medicinal teas. The runner-up at number 2 is longevity spinach. It doesn't just grow, it conquers. This sprawling, vining plant is a medicinal powerhouse that seems completely and totally immune to pests, diseases, and harsh conditions. In a spacious balcony setting, you can plant it in a 5-gallon hanging basket and let it cascade beautifully, or give it a tall trellis to climb. It prefers bright, indirect light rather than scorching full afternoon sun. It earned its name for a reason. Scientifically proven to lower blood sugar, reduce cholesterol, and fight inflammation. A comprehensive pharmacological review published in the journal Frontiers in Pharmacology specifically confirms that its leaves possess potent anti-diabetic and anti-hypertensive properties that actively mimic insulin. You can toss these leaves raw into fresh salads, blend them into detox green smoothies, or flash fry them with crushed garlic for a nutrient-dense side dish. Here is a fascinating fact. For centuries, the exact location and cultivation methods of longevity spinach were closely guarded secrets among traditional herbalists in Asia, considered too valuable of a life-extending medicine to share with the general public. The magic of longevity spinach is its recovery speed. The more you harvest the crisp, slightly fleshy leaves, the more aggressively it branches out to replace them. And if you ever want more plants, it is ridiculously easy to propagate. Simply snap off a stem, strip the bottom leaves, and stick it directly into damp potting soil. It roots almost instantly. From a simple cutting to your first harvest takes an astonishingly short 3 to 4 weeks. After that, it is a daily harvest machine that will produce 365 days a year if you protect it from winter temperatures. You can harvest from this plant every single day, and it will never, ever show signs of stopping. And finally, taking the absolute crown at number 1, Cuban oregano, also known as Mexican mint. If there is one plant that could survive the end of the world in a plastic pot, this is it. Cuban oregano is not a true oregano. It is a stunning semi-succulent with thick, velvety, incredibly aromatic leaves that carry the intense, punchy flavor of oregano, thyme, and mint all rolled into one. This plant is practically indestructible. It demands a container. A 3 to 5 gallon pot is ideal because it absolutely requires sandy, cactus-like soil with supreme drainage. It laughs at heat waves. It thrives on utter neglect. You can go on vacation, forget to water it for a week in the blazing sun, and its thick leaves will simply hold the moisture it needs to survive. The velvet leaves are loaded with vitamins A and C and have been used for centuries as a traditional medicinal remedy to cure sore throats and chest coughs. Crush the thick leaves into intense salsas, use them as a dominant marinade for pork and poultry, or steep them into a powerful medicinal tea. 99% of people don't know this fact. Despite its famous name, Cuban oregano is entirely a lie. As officially verified by the botanists at the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew, it is not an oregano, and it does not originate from Cuba. It is actually a highly evolved member of the mint family, originally hailing from the rugged terrains of southern Africa. To harvest, you don't even need scissors. Just snap off the fleshy branches with your fingers. The plant immediately heals the wound and shoots out 2 new branches in its place. Once established from a cutting, it is ready to harvest in as little as 4 weeks. Because it is an evergreen perennial in warm climates, it ignores the seasons completely, giving you a relentless harvest every single month of the year. It is the undisputed king of the continuous harvest, a flawless, beautiful, unstoppable food source that will transform your balcony into an endless supply of flavor. And that wraps up our list of 15 incredibly high-yielding vegetables and herbs for container gardens. I hope this video has sparked your inspiration and given you the motivation to create your own lush green space that provides fresh, clean food right at home. Which of these plants are you planning to grow first? Let me know down in the comments.
But don't go anywhere just yet, because our Container Orchard Masterclass is far from over. Right now, let's dive into the next top 15 most productive container garden crops for small spaces. Let's get started.
At number 15, we have cilantro. Most people don't think of cilantro as a high-yield container crop, because they usually buy it in small bunches from the grocery store and assume it doesn't produce very much. But experienced container gardeners know that cilantro can become one of the most productive herbs in a small space when grown correctly. The secret is not growing one large plant, but growing many plants together in a single container. A pot that is at least 8 to 10 inches deep and 10 to 12 inches wide can support dozens of cilantro plants, creating a dense patch of edible foliage. One of the biggest reasons cilantro earns a place on this list is speed. While many vegetables require months before the first harvest, cilantro can often be harvested in as little as 30 to 45 days after planting. That quick turnaround makes it especially rewarding for beginners who want fast results. It grows best with 4 to 6 hours of sunlight per day and performs particularly well during the cooler temperatures of spring and fall. In hot summer conditions, cilantro tends to bolt quickly, which is one of the most common mistakes gardeners make. Fortunately, containers provide a major advantage because they can be moved into partial shade during the hottest part of the day, extending the harvest period. Another reason cilantro is so productive is succession planting. Many experienced growers sow a new batch of seeds every 2 or 3 weeks. By the time one container is reaching peak production, another is already developing behind it. And unlike some crops that only get used occasionally, cilantro is something many people use every week. It adds flavor to tacos, curries, soups, noodle dishes, rice bowls, salsas, salads, and countless other recipes. Because it is harvested frequently and grows back quickly, the total amount produced from a few containers can be surprisingly large. What makes cilantro deserve its place on this list is not the size of any single harvest, but the combination of rapid growth, dense planting, frequent use, and repeated production. A simple container of cilantro can provide fresh herbs for meal after meal, proving that even one small pot can become a remarkably productive food-growing system. At number 14, we have dill. Most gardeners grow dill for its fresh flavor, but few realize how much productivity can come from a single container. At first glance, dill doesn't look like a high-yield crop. Its thin stems and delicate feathery leaves appear almost fragile compared to many vegetables. But what makes dill special is that nearly every stage of its growth produces something useful. A container that is at least 10 to 12 inches deep provides enough room for healthy root development, while 6 or more hours of direct sunlight each day encourages vigorous growth. Within about 40 to 60 days after planting, gardeners can begin harvesting the fragrant leaves. But that's only the beginning. As the season progresses, dill produces flower heads that are highly valued for pickling, and later, those flowers develop into seeds that can be harvested and stored as a spice. Few container crops offer 3 separate harvest opportunities from a single planting. Another reason dill ranks so highly is its ability to reseed itself. If some mature seeds are allowed to fall back into the container, new dill plants often emerge on their own. What begins as a single crop can gradually turn into multiple generations growing in the same pot. This self-renewing habit dramatically increases long-term productivity with very little effort from the gardener. Dill also grows vertically rather than spreading outward, making it an efficient use of limited space. Even a small balcony or patio can support several containers without feeling crowded. Beyond the harvest itself, dill contributes to the overall health of a container garden by attracting pollinators and beneficial insects when it flowers. These insects help support nearby crops and improve the productivity of the entire growing area. One of the most common mistakes people make is choosing containers that are too shallow, which can limit root development and reduce plant vigor. With proper depth, sunlight, and regular watering, dill often grows taller and more productive than most people expect. What makes dill deserve its place on this list is its incredible efficiency. It produces edible leaves, flowers, and seeds, frequently replants itself, attracts beneficial insects, and requires very little space to do it. A single container can continue providing value long after many other herbs have finished their season, making dill one of the hardest working plants a container gardener can grow. At number 13, we have parsley. This is one of the most underestimated herbs in container gardening because most people think of it as nothing more than a garnish. They see a few sprigs on a plate and assume it has little value beyond decoration. But gardeners who grow parsley quickly discover that it can become one of the most productive plants in their entire container garden. A pot that is 8 to 10 inches deep provides enough room for strong root development, and with 4 to 6 hours of sunlight each day, parsley can produce a steady supply of leaves for months. Unlike many vegetables that are harvested once and removed, parsley thrives on a cut and regrow cycle. The key is to harvest only the outer stems, while leaving the center of the plant untouched. This encourages continuous new growth and allows the same plant to remain productive throughout the season. Most varieties are ready for their first harvest in about 60 to 70 days, but once production begins, the harvest can continue for a remarkably long time. One of the reasons parsley is so valuable is that it fits into almost every kitchen. Because it is used so frequently, gardeners often find themselves harvesting from the same container several times each week. That regular use transforms parsley from a simple herb into a dependable food crop. Another advantage is its adaptability. Parsley tolerates cooler temperatures better than many herbs and can continue growing when more heat-sensitive crops begin to struggle. Container growing also allows gardeners to maintain consistent soil moisture, which parsley loves. One of the most common mistakes is cutting the entire plant at once. While this may provide a larger, immediate harvest, it significantly reduces long-term productivity. Experienced growers know that smaller, more frequent harvests produce far more food over the course of a season. A healthy parsley plant can provide dozens of harvests before it finally slows down. At number 12, we have mustard greens. If you're looking for a crop that makes a container look productive in the shortest amount of time possible, mustard greens are hard to beat. Many gardeners are shocked by how quickly these plants grow. A container that seemed nearly empty a few weeks earlier can suddenly be overflowing with large, edible leaves ready for harvest. That's one of the biggest reasons mustard greens earn a place on this list. They combine fast growth, repeated harvests, and impressive yields from a relatively small space. Most varieties grow well in containers that are at least 8 to 10 inches deep and receive 4 to 6 hours of sunlight each day. Under favorable conditions, gardeners can begin harvesting leaves in as little as 30 to 40 days after planting. Another advantage is the size of the harvest. Unlike many herbs that produce small leaves, mustard greens develop broad foliage that can fill bowls, stir-fries, soups, and salads with just a few cuttings. This makes each harvest feel substantial. One of the secrets to maximizing production is using the cut and come again method. Instead of pulling the entire plant, gardeners harvest only the larger outer leaves while allowing the center to continue growing. The plant responds by producing new foliage, creating a cycle of continuous harvests that can last for weeks or even months. Frequent harvesting actually encourages additional growth, making the container more productive over time. Mustard greens also perform exceptionally well during cool weather, making them ideal for spring and fall gardening when many summer crops are not yet producing. Their slightly peppery flavor becomes milder when harvested young and stronger as the leaves mature, giving gardeners flexibility in how they use the crop. One common mistake is overcrowding plants in a container. While mustard greens can be planted fairly densely, excessive crowding reduces airflow and limits leaf size. Giving each plant enough room allows it to reach its full productive potential. Another advantage of mustard greens is their nutritional value. The leaves are rich in vitamins A, C, and K, making them one of the healthiest crops a container gardener can grow. At number 11, we have Tatsoi. At first glance, Tatsoi may not look like one of the highest-yielding crops you can grow in a container. Its low-growing rosette of dark green leaves appears compact and modest compared to larger vegetables. But that's exactly what makes it such an efficient producer. Tatsoi excels at turning a small amount of space into a surprisingly large amount of food. Because the plants remain compact, they can be grown much closer together than many other greens, allowing gardeners to fit more plants into a single container. A pot that is only 6 to 8 inches deep is usually sufficient, making Tatsoi an excellent choice for balconies, patios, and other limited growing areas. One of the reasons Tatsoi ranks so highly is its speed. Under good growing conditions, it can be ready for harvest in as little as 25 to 40 days. That means gardeners don't have to wait long before seeing results. With 4 to 6 hours of sunlight each day and consistently moist soil, Tatsoi develops dense clusters of spoon-shaped leaves that are both attractive and highly productive. Another advantage is its cut-and-come-again growth habit. Instead of harvesting the entire plant, gardeners can remove the larger outer leaves while leaving the center intact. This allows the plant to continue producing fresh foliage for multiple harvest cycles. Over time, the total amount harvested from a single container can be surprisingly impressive. Tatsoi also thrives during cooler weather, making it one of the best crops for extending the productivity of a container garden into spring and fall. While many vegetables slow down or struggle when temperatures drop, Tatsoi often continues producing high-quality leaves. This resilience makes it particularly valuable for gardeners looking to maximize food production throughout the year. One common mistake gardeners make is overwatering. Although Tatsoi appreciates consistent moisture, waterlogged soil can lead to root problems and reduced growth. Using a well-draining potting mix helps maintain healthy plants and steady production. At number 10, we have Mizuna. This is one of those crops that often surprises gardeners because it doesn't look particularly impressive when it's first planted. The seedlings are small, delicate, and easy to overlook. But once Mizuna gets established, it can become one of the most productive leafy greens in a container garden. What makes it so valuable is its remarkable ability to regrow after harvest. While some vegetables produce a single crop and then decline, Mizuna seems determined to keep generating new leaves every time it's cut. That's exactly why experienced gardeners love it. A container only 6 to 8 inches deep is usually enough to support healthy plants, making Mizuna an excellent choice for small balconies, patios, and urban gardens where space is limited. One of its biggest advantages is speed. Under favorable conditions, gardeners can begin harvesting leaves in as little as 20 to 30 days after planting. Few leafy vegetables deliver usable food so quickly. With 4 to 6 hours of sunlight each day and consistent watering, Mizuna develops dense clusters of deeply cut leaves that create an abundant appearance in a surprisingly short period of time. The real productivity comes from its cut-and-come-again nature. Instead of harvesting the entire plant, gardeners remove the outer leaves and leave the center growing. New foliage quickly replaces what was harvested, allowing the same container to provide multiple harvests over an extended period. Frequent harvesting actually helps encourage more growth, turning a single planting into a long-term source of fresh greens. One common mistake is waiting too long to harvest. Older leaves can become tougher, while regular cutting encourages tender new growth and higher overall production. At number 9, we have sorrel. This is one of the most underrated edible plants in container gardening, largely because many people have never heard of it. Yet, among experienced gardeners, sorrel is often considered one of the most productive long-term crops you can grow in a pot. Unlike many leafy greens that need to be replanted every season, sorrel is a perennial in many climates, which means a single planting can continue producing for years. That's a huge advantage when you're trying to maximize productivity from limited space. A container that is 10 to 12 inches deep provides enough room for the plant's strong root system. And once established, sorrel becomes remarkably reliable. It grows well in either full sun or partial shade, making it more adaptable than many other leafy crops. Most gardeners can begin harvesting leaves about 50 to 60 days after planting, but the real value comes afterward. Instead of reaching a peak and declining, sorrel settles into a cycle of continuous production. The plant constantly sends up new leaves from the center, while older leaves can be harvested from the outside. This allows gardeners to enjoy repeated harvests throughout the growing season with very little maintenance. Another reason sorrel ranks so highly is its resilience. It tolerates cooler temperatures exceptionally well and often begins producing early in the season before many other vegetables have even started growing. In some regions, it can continue producing until frost and then return the following year even stronger. That kind of long-term performance is rare in container gardening. One of the secrets to maintaining high productivity is removing flower stalks as soon as they appear. If the plant is allowed to focus on seed production, leaf growth slows down. By redirecting energy back into foliage production, gardeners can dramatically increase the total harvest over the season. Another advantage is that sorrel requires relatively little attention once established. It doesn't demand constant fertilizing, complicated pruning, or frequent replanting. At number 8, we have celeriac. This is the crop that often surprises people the most because it doesn't look like a high-yield container plant while it's growing. In fact, for much of the season, celeriac appears fairly ordinary. The leaves resemble celery, the growth seems slow, and there isn't much visible excitement above the soil. But beneath the surface, a completely different story is unfolding. Day after day, the plant is building a large, dense, edible root that eventually becomes one of the most substantial harvests you can pull from a container. To grow successfully, celeriac needs a container that is at least 12 inches deep and wide enough to support the developing root. It performs best with 6 or more hours of sunlight each day and consistently moist soil. One of the most common mistakes gardeners make is allowing the soil to dry out. Unlike some vegetables that tolerate occasional drought, celeriac prefers steady moisture throughout its growing cycle. Under good conditions, harvest typically arrives after about 100 to 120 days. While that may seem like a long wait compared to fast-growing greens, the final reward is substantial. What makes celeriac especially productive is that it provides more than one harvest. While the large root is the primary attraction, the aromatic leaves can also be used in soups, stocks, and cooking throughout the season. Then, when harvest day finally arrives, the swollen root delivers a significant amount of food from a single plant. Container growing often improves the quality of that harvest because the growing medium can be carefully controlled. Loose, well-draining potting soil allows the root to develop evenly, without the rocks and compaction that frequently affect garden-grown specimens. The result is often a smoother, larger, and more attractive harvest. Another reason celeriac deserves recognition is storage. Unlike many leafy vegetables that must be eaten quickly, harvested celeriac can be stored for extended periods under proper conditions. That means the container isn't just producing food for today, it is producing food for future meals as well. At number 7, we have daikon radish. Most people think of radishes as small, round vegetables that mature quickly and fit easily in the palm of your hand. Daikon radish completely changes that perception. This is a root crop that can grow to extraordinary sizes, often reaching 12 to 18 inches long and sometimes weighing several pounds under ideal conditions. That's an impressive amount of food from a single plant, especially when it's grown in a container. In fact, daikon is one of the clearest examples that container gardening isn't limited to small harvests. With the right setup, a single pot can produce a root large enough to become the centerpiece of multiple meals. Because of its size, daikon requires a deeper container than many other vegetables. A pot at least 12 to 18 inches deep is recommended, giving the root enough room to develop straight and uninterrupted. The plant thrives in full sun, ideally receiving 6 or more hours of direct sunlight each day, and most varieties reach harvest size within 50 to 70 days. One of the biggest advantages of growing daikon in containers is soil control. In traditional garden beds, rocks, hard clay, or compacted soil can cause roots to fork, twist, or become misshapen. Containers eliminate many of these problems by allowing gardeners to create a loose, well-draining growing medium specifically designed for root development. The result is often larger, straighter, and more attractive harvests. Another reason daikon ranks so highly is that it offers 2 edible crops from a single planting. While the massive root is the main attraction, the leafy greens are also edible and highly nutritious. Many gardeners harvest some of the leaves while the root continues developing below. This means the container begins producing food long before harvest day arrives. Few root crops provide that kind of dual-purpose productivity. One common mistake is choosing containers that are too shallow. When roots encounter the bottom of the pot too early, growth is restricted and yields decline significantly. Providing sufficient depth is one of the easiest ways to maximize production. At number 6, we have fennel. This is one of the most versatile and productive crops you can grow in a container because it provides multiple harvests from a single plant. Most vegetables give you one edible part. Fennel gives you several. The swollen bulb at the base can be harvested as a vegetable. The feathery fronds can be used as an herb. The stalks can flavor soups and stocks. And if the plant is allowed to mature, it produces seeds that can be harvested and stored as a spice. Few container crops offer this much value from one planting. That's exactly why fennel earns a place so high on this list. To grow successfully, fennel needs a container at least 12 inches deep with plenty of room for root development. It performs best in full sun, ideally receiving 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every day. Most bulb varieties reach maturity in about 80 to 100 days, although gardeners can begin harvesting small amounts of foliage much earlier. One of the biggest advantages of fennel is its upright growth habit. Unlike sprawling vegetables that consume large amounts of horizontal space, fennel grows vertically, making it an efficient use of valuable container garden real estate. This allows gardeners to dedicate one pot to a crop that continues providing value throughout its entire life cycle. Another reason fennel performs so well in containers is the level of control growers have over soil quality and moisture. The plant prefers rich, well-draining soil that remains consistently moist. One common mistake is overcrowding. Because fennel develops a large bulb, plants need adequate spacing to reach their full potential. When given enough room, the bulb gradually swells into a substantial harvest that feels surprisingly large for a container-grown vegetable. At number 5, we have leeks. This is the point in the countdown where productivity begins to look less like constant harvesting and more like building a truly substantial food crop. Most people associate container gardening with leafy greens and herbs because they grow quickly and fit into small spaces. Leeks prove that containers can produce something much more significant. A mature leek isn't just a handful of leaves. It's a thick, flavorful stalk that can become the foundation of an entire meal. And because multiple plants can be grown together in one container, the total harvest can be surprisingly impressive. To reach their full potential, leeks need a container that is at least 10 to 12 inches deep. The extra depth allows growers to gradually add soil around the stems as they grow, a technique known as blanching. This encourages longer, more tender white shafts, which are the most desirable part of the plant. Leeks perform best with 6 or more hours of sunlight per day, and typically reach harvest size within 100 to 120 days. While they require more patience than fast-growing greens, the final reward is often worth the wait. One of the reasons leeks rank so highly is their space efficiency. Unlike vegetables that spread outward, leeks grow almost entirely upward. This allows gardeners to plant them relatively close together while still achieving excellent yields. A single deep container can support a surprisingly large number of plants, transforming a small growing area into a productive source of food. Another major advantage is seasonal resilience. Leeks thrive in cool weather and often continue growing long after many summer crops have finished. In some climates, they can even tolerate light frosts, making them one of the most reliable vegetables for extending the growing season. This extended productivity increases the overall value of every container dedicated to the crop. In the kitchen, leeks are incredibly versatile. Their mild, sweet onion flavor works beautifully in soups, stews, casseroles, pasta dishes, quiches, roasted vegetable mixes, and countless other recipes. Because they are often more expensive than standard onions at grocery stores, harvesting your own leeks feels particularly rewarding. Each mature stalk represents a meaningful amount of food rather than just a garnish or seasoning. At number 4, we have garlic chives. If there is one plant on this list that perfectly demonstrates the concept of plant it once and harvest it for years, it's garlic chives. Many gardeners initially grow them because they're easy to maintain, but they continue growing them because of how incredibly productive they become over time. Unlike annual herbs that need to be replanted every season, garlic chives establish a strong root system and return year after year, producing larger harvests with each passing season. A container that is only 8 to 10 inches deep is usually enough to support healthy growth, making this one of the most efficient crops for small space gardeners. With just 4 to 6 hours of sunlight per day, garlic chives can thrive and begin producing harvestable leaves in roughly 60 days. But what makes them truly special isn't the first harvest. It's the hundreds of harvests that can follow. The secret to their productivity lies in their remarkable ability to regrow. Every time the leaves are cut near the base, the plant responds by producing fresh new shoots. In many climates, gardeners can harvest garlic chives every few weeks throughout the growing season. Some established plants can provide dozens of cuttings each year. This continuous cycle turns a single container into a long-term source of fresh food. Another reason garlic chives rank so highly is their exceptional space efficiency. The leaves grow upright rather than sprawling outward, allowing a large amount of edible material to be produced from a relatively small footprint. Over time, the clump expands naturally, filling the container with dense growth and increasing yields even further. One common mistake is allowing the plant to become root-bound for too many years. Dividing mature clumps every few seasons helps maintain vigorous growth and keeps production high. At number 3, we have watercress. This is one of the fastest growing edible crops you can grow in a container, and once it becomes established, its productivity can be almost unbelievable. While many leafy vegetables require weeks or even months between major harvests, watercress seems to operate on an entirely different schedule. Under the right conditions, it grows so quickly that gardeners often find themselves harvesting simply to prevent it from taking over the container. That's one of the main reasons watercress earns a place in the top 3. It combines rapid growth, repeated harvests, and exceptional nutritional value in a very small amount of space. Unlike most vegetables, watercress actually prefers consistently moist conditions. A container only 6 to 8 inches deep is usually sufficient because the plant develops a relatively shallow root system. It performs best in partial sun, especially in areas with warm summers, and can often be harvested within just 20 to 30 days after planting. Few edible crops offer a faster return on investment. What makes watercress so productive is its growth habit. Instead of forming a single head or producing one central harvest, it continuously sends out new stems and leaves. Each stem becomes another opportunity for harvesting. As the plant spreads across the surface of the container, production increases dramatically. A small planting can quickly transform into a dense mat of edible foliage that seems to regenerate almost as quickly as it's harvested. The best way to maximize yield is to trim the stems regularly while leaving the root system intact. This encourages branching and stimulates even more growth. Over time, the total amount harvested from a single container can be astonishing. Some gardeners report harvesting from the same planting week after week for months. Another reason watercress deserves its high ranking is its nutritional profile. It is widely recognized as one of the most nutrient-dense leafy greens available, packed with vitamins A, C, and K, as well as numerous antioxidants and minerals. That means every harvest delivers not only quantity, but also exceptional nutritional value. One of the most common mistakes gardeners make is allowing the container to dry out. Watercress thrives on moisture, and even short periods of drought can reduce growth significantly. Maintaining consistently damp soil is the key to unlocking its full productive potential. At number 2, we have perpetual spinach. The name alone explains why this crop ranks so highly. Most vegetables follow a predictable pattern. They grow, they mature, they're harvested, and eventually their productive life comes to an end. Perpetual spinach seems determined to break that rule. Once established, it can continue producing fresh leaves for months, often outlasting traditional spinach by a huge margin. That's exactly why container gardeners love it. When space is limited, every pot needs to generate as much food as possible, and perpetual spinach excels at doing just that. A container that is 10 to 12 inches deep provides plenty of room for healthy root development, and with 4 to 6 hours of sunlight per day, plants can begin producing harvestable leaves in approximately 40 to 50 days. But the first harvest is only the beginning. The real productivity comes from the plant's cut-and-come-again growth habit. Instead of removing the entire plant, gardeners simply harvest the larger outer leaves, while allowing the center to continue growing. New foliage constantly replaces what was removed, creating a nearly endless cycle of production. A healthy container can provide harvest after harvest throughout the season. Another advantage is the size of the leaves. They grow large enough that even a modest harvest feels substantial. A few plants can provide enough greens for salads, smoothies, soups, stir-fries, pasta dishes, and cooked vegetable recipes on a regular basis. Because the harvest is so versatile, gardeners often find themselves using it several times each week. One common mistake is harvesting too aggressively. Removing the entire plant may provide a larger immediate harvest, but it sacrifices months of future production. Experienced growers understand that frequent light harvesting produces far greater yields over time. Another benefit is the plant's adaptability. It performs well in a variety of climates and continues producing under conditions that challenge many other leafy vegetables. This reliability makes it one of the safest choices for gardeners who want consistent results. At number 1, we have mint. This is the plant that completely changes the conversation about container productivity. In fact, mint is so vigorous that many gardeners don't grow it in containers because they prefer containers. They grow it in containers because they have no other choice. Left in a garden bed, mint has a reputation for spreading aggressively through underground runners and quickly taking over large areas. But when all of that growth energy is confined to a single pot, the result is one of the most productive edible plants you can possibly grow. That's why mint earns the number 1 position on this list. A container at least 12 inches deep is ideal because mint develops an extensive root system that continuously generates new shoots. With 4 to 6 hours of sunlight each day and regular watering, plants can be ready for their first harvest in as little as 30 days. But unlike many herbs that slow down after harvesting, mint actually responds by producing even more growth. Every time stems are cut, the plant sends up fresh shoots from the base, creating a constant cycle of regeneration that can continue for months or even years. Another advantage is adaptability. Mint tolerates partial shade better than many herbs and performs well in a wide range of climates. It is also relatively forgiving of beginner mistakes, making it one of the easiest edible plants to grow successfully. One common mistake, however, is planting mint directly in the ground. Given enough time, it can spread far beyond its original location. Containers act as natural barriers, concentrating all of that vigorous growth into a controlled space where it becomes an asset rather than a problem. What truly makes mint deserving of the number 1 spot is its combination of speed, resilience, regrowth, and sheer volume of production. Few edible plants can match its ability to generate harvest after harvest from the same container with so little effort. While other crops eventually slow down, mint simply keeps growing. It proves that when the right plant is paired with the right container, a single pot can become a remarkably productive food-producing system. And that's exactly why mint stands at the very top of this list. What do you think about the 15 vegetables and herbs I mentioned in this video? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.
But don't go anywhere just yet, because our Container Orchard Masterclass is far from over. Right now, let's dive into the next 15 vegetables and herbs that yield the highest when grown in pots. Let's get started.
At number 15, we have mâché, also known as corn salad. When traditional container greens begin to yellow and fade as the weather turns cold, most gardeners pack up their pots and think their growing season is over. But that is exactly when mâché comes alive. This incredibly cold, hardy green thrives in freezing temperatures that would instantly kill other leafy plants, making it a highly productive crop for winter and early spring container gardening. Because it has a relatively shallow root system, a pot that is only 6 to 8 inches deep is plenty of room. What makes mâché so remarkably productive is its dense, clustering growth habit. The rosettes stay compact, which means you can pack dozens of plants into a single wide container, maximizing every square inch of potting soil. With just 4 hours of sunlight a day, you can start harvesting its soft, spoon-shaped leaves in about 40 to 60 days. The secret to a high yield is using the cut-and-come-again method. By delicately snipping the outer leaves and leaving the center of the rosette intact, a single container will keep producing fresh, nutty-flavored salad greens straight through the coldest months of the year, when your containers would otherwise be sitting empty and useless. Mâché proves that container productivity isn't just about how fast a plant grows in the summer, but how reliably it can feed you in the dead of winter. Did you know why mâché is also called corn salad? In European history, before the invention of herbicides, this plant grew wild as a harmless weed in wheat and barley fields, collectively referred to as corn. Farmers of that era harvested them to make winter salads, transforming a simple weed into a highly sought-after vegetable in today's high-end restaurants. At number 14, we have purslane. Many people spend hours pulling purslane out of their garden beds, thinking it is nothing more than a stubborn, invasive weed. But cultivated purslane is actually an absolute powerhouse for container gardening. The secret to its massive productivity is its extreme tolerance for heat and drought. When midsummer temperatures soar and cause standard greens to wilt, bolt, and die, purslane actively explodes with growth. It requires a container about 8 inches deep and absolutely loves full, blistering sun. Its thick, succulent leaves and crunchy stems regenerate incredibly fast after being cut. Because it trails and naturally spills over the edges of a pot, a single container can produce a massive volume of edible greens, utilizing vertical space cascading down the sides of the planter. Aside from its aggressive growth rate, purslane is widely considered a superfood. It contains more omega-3 fatty acids than almost any other leafy vegetable on Earth. With a crisp, slightly citrusy crunch, it's absolutely perfect for summer salads, sandwiches, and smoothies. The most common mistake gardeners make is overwatering it. Purslane thrives on neglect. It earns its place on this list by proving that sometimes the most productive container crops are the resilient survivors that simply refuse to give up when the weather gets harsh. Purslane possesses a biological superpower called CAM photosynthesis. To retain water on hot, dry days, it closes its stomata during the day and only opens them to absorb carbon dioxide at night. Interestingly, this process produces malic acid. If you harvest purslane early in the morning, the leaves will be significantly more tart and crisp compared to harvesting them in the late afternoon. At number 13, we have endive. If you want a leafy green that produces massive, continuous volume in a strictly confined space, endive is a top contender. At first glance, it might look like a standard, fragile salad green, but endive is far more robust and heavily yielding. A container that is 8 to 10 inches deep gives it plenty of room to develop a strong, deep root system. What truly earns endive its place on this list is its impressive cut-and-come-again capability, paired with a long growing season. Instead of waiting weeks to harvest a single mature head and then having an empty pot, gardeners can continuously trim the outer frilly leaves. The plant quickly replaces whatever you take, creating a prolonged harvest season that can literally last for months. It performs exceptionally well in cooler weather and even tolerates partial shade, making it highly adaptable for balcony growers who don't get full afternoon sun. With its slightly bitter, complex flavor that mellows beautifully when cooked or paired with a warm vinaigrette, it adds incredible depth to fresh salads and hearty winter soups. A single container of endive works like a steady factory, slowly but surely outproducing crops that offer a one-time harvest. To reduce the characteristic bitterness of endive, traditional French farmers use a technique called blanching. They tie the outer leaves together or place a pot over the plant to completely block sunlight from reaching the core. The lack of light prevents the plant from producing chlorophyll, resulting in a pale yellow, crisp, sweet core with a much more refined flavor. At number 12, we have sage. Most people are used to buying tiny, expensive plastic clamshells of sage at the grocery store for holiday cooking, never realizing how monstrously productive this herb can become when given a pot of its own. Sage is a woody perennial, meaning if you plant it once, it will reward you with harvest for years to come. Because it can grow into a substantial bush, a container that is at least 12 inches deep is ideal to anchor its roots. Given full sun and well-draining soil, it produces thick, velvety leaves that can be harvested almost year-round in milder climates. The true beauty of growing sage in a container is that frequent harvesting actually improves the plant. Trimming it regularly prevents the stems from becoming too woody, instead encouraging tender, highly flavorful new growth to flush out constantly. Its earthy, robust flavor is incredibly potent, meaning a single container will easily produce more than enough foliage for roasting meats, flavoring brown butter sauces, and stuffing poultry for years. While annuals require you to buy new seeds and soil every spring, a single pot of sage is a long-term investment that pays for itself 100 times over. The scientific name for sage is salvia, derived from the Latin word salvare, which means to heal or to save. During the Middle Ages, this herb was highly revered as a cure-all remedy. In fact, people in Europe used to share a famous proverb praising it. Why should a man die while sage grows in his garden? At number 11, we have amaranth greens. When the intense heat of August arrives, most leafy greens surrender. But amaranth is a tropical plant that transforms extreme heat into explosive leafy biomass. While some varieties of amaranth are grown primarily for their grain, the edible leaf varieties are a container gardener's secret weapon for unstoppable summer productivity. A 10 to 12-inch deep container placed in the hottest, sunniest spot on your patio will yield astonishing results. Within just 30 to 40 days of planting, you can start pinching off the vibrant green or striking red leaves. Here is where the magic happens. The more you harvest the top growth, the more the plant is forced to branch out laterally. This creates a massive, bushy canopy of edible foliage from a single central stem. It cooks down beautifully, acting like a much sturdier, earthier version of traditional greens, and is deeply valued in Asian, African, and Caribbean cuisines. Amaranth gives you a continuous, heavy supply of highly nutritious greens exactly at the time of year when every other container plant in your garden is struggling to survive. Amaranth was once a sacred plant and a massive food source for the ancient Aztec civilization. They didn't just eat the leaves. They also popped amaranth seeds like popcorn, mixed them with honey, and sculpted them into statues of their gods. When the Spanish arrived in the Americas, they were so shocked and terrified by this custom that they banned the widespread cultivation of amaranth for centuries. So, we've just gone through our first 5 vegetables and herbs. Which one of these is your favorite? For me, the most impressive is endive, with its complex, slightly bitter flavor that beautifully mellows out when cooked, and especially its ability to just keep on growing continuously. At number 10, we have thyme. At first glance, thyme doesn't look like a heavy yielder because its leaves are incredibly small. But what it lacks in individual leaf size, it more than makes up for in sheer volume, density, and culinary impact. Thyme is a spreading perennial that will quickly fill the entire surface of a container and beautifully cascade over the sides, creating a thick, fragrant mat. An 8-inch deep pot with excellent drainage is perfect, as thyme absolutely hates sitting in wet, soggy soil. Once established in full sun, it becomes a permanent food source. The secret to maximum yield is aggressive pruning. You can shear the entire plant back by a third, and rather than dying, it will flush out with fresh, fragrant new growth within just a few weeks. Because the essential oils and flavors in thyme are so highly concentrated, a few small sprigs are all you need to dramatically elevate roasted vegetables, marinades, and slow-cooked stews. Over the course of a single season, a modest pot of thyme produces an incredible amount of culinary power, making it one of the most space-efficient plants you can possibly grow. Thanks to its high levels of thymol, a compound with incredibly potent natural antibacterial and antiseptic properties, thyme was used by ancient Egyptians as an essential ingredient in the mummification process. As for Roman soldiers, they regularly bathed in water infused with crushed thyme, fiercely believing that its scent would grant them extraordinary courage on the battlefield. At number 9, we have shungiku, also known as edible chrysanthemum. This incredibly fast-growing Asian green is a highly productive crop that constantly surprises Western gardeners who try it for the first time. A pot that is just 8 inches deep is sufficient to support a dense planting of shungiku. It loves cooler weather and grows at an absolutely blistering pace, often ready for its very first harvest in just 30 to 45 days. But the real secret to its high yield lies in how you harvest it. Instead of waiting for the plant to mature, experienced growers cut the main shoots when they are about 6 to 8 inches tall, making sure to snip just above the lowest set of leaves. The plant responds to this cut by immediately sending out multiple side shoots, effectively multiplying your harvest with every single cut. With its unique, slightly floral and deeply herbaceous flavor, it is an absolute star ingredient in hot pots, quick stir-fries, and warming soups. By utilizing this aggressive cut-and-come-again method, a single container of shungiku can easily feed a family with fresh greens for weeks on end. In Western countries, chrysanthemums are primarily bred as ornamental plants or used in ceremonies and funerals. But in East Asia, shungiku has been selectively bred for centuries purely for culinary purposes. Though they belong to the same plant family, shungiku is a prime example of how cultural differences can turn a vase flower into a premium ingredient for hot pots. At number 8, we have chives, also known as traditional onion chives. Not to be confused with garlic chives, traditional onion chives are one of the most reliable, high-yielding perennial crops you can ever put in a pot. They are incredibly tough survivors, often being the very first green thing to wake up in the spring and the absolute last plant to die back in the freezing winter. A container 8 inches deep will allow their bulbous roots to multiply year after year. The productivity of chives is staggering. Every single time you grab a handful and snip them down to the base, they rapidly shoot right back up. In a healthy container, you can easily get a half dozen heavy harvests from a single pot in one growing season. Their mild, sweet onion flavor is perfect for baked potatoes, omelets, and garnishes. Even better, their beautiful purple flowers are completely edible, adding a sharp, oniony bite to fresh salads. Because the clump naturally expands beneath the soil over time, your container will actually become more productive the longer you own it. Chives are not only a delicious ingredient, but also a formidable bodyguard for your container garden. The sulfur compounds that give chives their distinct oniony scent can confuse and repel destructive pests like aphids or beetles. Many veteran gardeners always plant a pot of chives next to their roses or tomatoes to take advantage of this excellent biological defense barrier. At number 7, we have lemongrass. When people think of high-yielding container crops, they rarely think of growing grass. But lemongrass is a phenomenal, heavy-duty producer in containers. You aren't just growing flimsy leaves, you are growing dense, highly aromatic stalks that serve as the fundamental flavor base for countless Southeast Asian dishes. Because lemongrass forms a massive, expanding clump, a larger container, at least 12 to 14 inches deep and equally as wide, is strictly necessary. Give it full sun, intense heat, and plenty of water, and it will explode into a beautiful, fountain-like display. The harvesting method is what makes it so productive. You harvest it by firmly snapping or cutting the thick outer stalks right at the soil line. By taking only the mature outer edges, the inner core of the clump simply keeps expanding and pushing out new stalks. One large, healthy container of lemongrass will easily provide enough stalks for curries, soups, and fragrant teas for an entire year, producing physical weight and volume that puts many other herbs to shame. Everyone knows that lemongrass essential oil is great at repelling mosquitoes. But there is a surprising opposite truth. It is incredibly attractive to bees. The scent of lemongrass almost perfectly mimics the natural pheromones of honeybees. Because of this, beekeepers often rub lemongrass directly into new hives to gently lure an entire stray swarm into making it their new home. At number 6, we have oregano. If you want a container crop that practically thrives on complete neglect while producing endless harvests, oregano is your plant. Much like thyme, it is an aggressive perennial that loves to spread and conquer space. An 8 to 10 inch deep container gives it plenty of room to establish a dense, fibrous root system. Interestingly, oregano actually prefers poorer, sandy soil and less water. Stressing the plant slightly by withholding water actually intensifies its pungent, spicy flavor. The more aggressively you trim it, the bushier and more productive it becomes. What truly makes oregano a top-tier producer on this list is that its flavor actually improves when dried. This means you can harvest the entire container multiple times throughout the summer, hang the stems upside down to dry, and stock your pantry with incredibly potent, homegrown herbs. A single pot will easily provide enough oregano to flavor your homemade pizzas, pastas, and Mediterranean dishes straight through the winter months. The name oregano comes from two ancient Greek words, oros, mountain, and ganos, joy, translating to the incredibly romantic meaning, joy of the mountain. The ancient Greeks believed that cows grazing on oregano-covered hills would produce the tastiest meat. They also frequently planted this herb around graves to pray for eternal peace and happiness for the deceased. All right, we've made it through 10 vegetables and herbs on our list. Which one has impressed you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Next, we'll move on to the final 5. Make sure to stick around until the very end, because the last plant on this list is guaranteed to surprise you. At number 5, we have gailan, also known as Chinese broccoli. When most people think of growing broccoli, they automatically assume they need a massive garden bed and months of patience for a single head to form. But gailan completely flips that script, turning a simple patio container into a continuous, high-yielding vegetable factory. Instead of waiting for a large crown to develop, this fast-growing Asian green is cultivated for its thick, crunchy stems and tender leaves. A pot that is 8 to 10 inches deep provides plenty of room for a dense cluster of plants. Gailan performs brilliantly in containers because its upright growth habit takes up very little horizontal space, allowing you to maximize the footprint of a small pot. With steady watering and decent sunlight, you can begin harvesting in just about 45 to 50 days. The true secret to its massive productivity is how it responds to being harvested. When you snap or cut the main thick stem for your evening stir-fry, the plant immediately reacts by sending out multiple new lateral side shoots. This incredible cut-and-come-again capability means a single container will continuously multiply your harvest, providing sweet, crisp vegetables week after week. Did you know that Gailan is actually the parent of the expensive broccolini often found in Western supermarkets? Broccolini is not just baby broccoli. It is a natural hybrid between traditional broccoli and Gailan. This combination yields the thick floral florets of the West and the crunchy, sweet, completely stringless stems characteristic of Asia. At number 4, we have turmeric. Turmeric asks the container gardener for nothing but patience, and in return, it delivers an enormous harvest hidden entirely beneath the soil. Above ground, turmeric is stunning, featuring broad, lush tropical leaves that look like high-end ornamental houseplants. But in a wide container that is at least 12 inches deep, an incredible multiplication process is happening out of sight. Plant a few small, unassuming rhizomes in the spring, give them a warm, sunny spot, and keep the soil consistently moist. After 8 to 10 months, when the weather cools and the foliage finally dies back, the real magic happens. You dump the pot upside down to reveal a massive, interconnected cluster of bright orange, highly valuable turmeric roots. You can easily yield several pounds of roots from a single container. You harvest what you need to make anti-inflammatory teas, golden milk, and vibrant curries, and simply save a few small pieces in a cool, dark place to replant in the spring, starting the highly productive cycle all over again. Turmeric is not just a superfood. It is also a fantastic natural chemical indicator right in your kitchen. Turmeric powder contains curcumin, which is normally bright yellow. But if you mix it with an alkaline substance, such as baking soda or soap, the yellow color will instantly turn to brick red. Historically, it was also the sacred dye used to create the traditional saffron robes of Buddhist monks. At number 3, we have ginger. Much like its cousin turmeric, ginger is a subterranean powerhouse that actually performs exceptionally well in containers. In fact, many experienced gardeners argue that containers are better for ginger than traditional garden beds. Containers heat up faster in the sun, and they allow you to use loose, highly well-draining potting soil, which ginger rhizomes desperately need to expand easily without fighting compacted clay. A wide, shallow container, about 10 to 12 inches deep, is ideal because ginger naturally grows horizontally rather than downward. With partial shade and consistent moisture, a single, cheap piece of store-bought ginger can multiply its own weight 5 or 10 times over a single growing season. But the absolute best part of container-grown ginger is that you don't even have to harvest it all at once. You can simply dig around the edge of the pot, snap off a fresh, spicy piece for your evening stir-fry, cover it back up with dirt, and leave the rest of the plant growing happily. Queen Elizabeth I of England is actually credited with inventing the famous gingerbread man. To impress foreign dignitaries and high-ranking guests visiting her court, she ordered the royal bakers to use expensive ginger dough to shape cookies that mirrored the exact likeness of those very guests, as a highly creative diplomatic gift. At number 2, we have Jerusalem artichokes, also known as sunchokes. If you want to talk about raw, heavy physical tonnage from a single container, sunchokes are nearly unbeatable. These are towering, sunflower-like plants that can easily reach 6 to 8 feet tall. But the true prize is not the flowers. It is the massive root system below. Because of their sheer size, you need a large container, at least 15 to 18 inches deep and wide. Plant a few small tubers in the spring, and by late autumn, the plant will have generated dozens of crisp, nutty-flavored tubers, tightly packed beneath the soil. The yield from a single large pot is staggering, often providing enough food to act as a staple carbohydrate for weeks. You can roast them, mash them like potatoes, or slice them raw into salads for an incredible crunch. But be warned, sunchokes are incredibly vigorous. If you leave even a tiny piece of a tuber in that soil, it will aggressively regrow the following year. They are a true survival crop, offering unmatched caloric yield for a container environment. The name Jerusalem artichokes is a spectacular linguistic deception. They have absolutely nothing to do with the city of Jerusalem, and they are definitely not artichokes. In reality, they are a species of sunflower native to North America. The word Jerusalem is believed to be a mispronunciation by the English of the Italian word girasole, meaning sunflower. Furthermore, their tubers store energy as inulin instead of regular starch. At number 1, we have lemon balm. This is a plant that completely changes the conversation about container productivity. Lemon balm is a close relative in the mint family, and it possesses the exact same unstoppable, almost frightening vigor. In fact, you should never plant lemon balm directly in the ground because it spreads rapidly through underground runners and will ruthlessly conquer your entire yard. But when you take all of that aggressive, survivalist energy and confine it strictly to a 12-inch container, the result is the most wildly productive herb you can possibly grow. With decent sunlight and regular watering, it grows at an explosive rate. You can literally take a pair of scissors, cut the entire plant down to the dirt, and it will aggressively flush back into a massive, bushy dome of leaves in just a matter of weeks. The cycle never stops. It produces an endless, heavy supply of bright, lemon-scented foliage that is absolutely perfect for calming herbal teas, infused syrups, cocktails, and fruit salads. What truly makes lemon balm the undeniable number 1 is its sheer volume, unmatched resilience, and the fact that it is a plant so highly productive, putting it in a container is the only way to tame it. Historically, lemon balm was known as the herb of gladness. In the 14th century, French nuns used it as the main ingredient to create Carmelite water, a wildly famous herbal tincture. European nobility and royalty consumed it daily because they absolutely believed that this tonic could cure headaches, dispel melancholy, and promote a long, joyful life. So we've just gone through the first 15 fantastic picks for your container garden. Which vegetable or herb impressed you the most? Let me know down in the comments.
But don't go anywhere just yet, because our Container Orchard Masterclass is far from over. Right now, let's dive into the next 15 vegetables that thrive in containers more than garden. Let's get started.
At number 15, we have carrots. Most people picture carrots growing deep underground in a traditional garden bed. But surprisingly, containers often produce better carrots than the ground ever could. Here's why. Garden soil is rarely perfect. It contains rocks, sticks, hard clay, and compacted areas that force carrots to twist, split, and grow into strange shapes. That's one reason so many homegrown carrots look crooked or stunted. Containers solve that problem immediately. Loose potting soil allows carrot roots to grow straight downward without fighting obstacles. The result is smoother, cleaner, more uniform carrots. Another huge advantage is weed control. Carrot seedlings are tiny and delicate during their early stages. In garden beds, weeds often compete aggressively for space and nutrients. But in containers, weeds are far easier to manage. Busy gardeners love that simplicity. Containers also make harvesting easier. Instead of digging through heavy soil, You can simply loosen the potting mix and pull the carrots cleanly from the container. And because containers warm faster in spring, carrot seeds often germinate more quickly than they do in cold garden soil. Many gardeners are shocked by how productive container carrots can become. A deep container just 12 inches deep can produce a surprisingly large harvest in a very small footprint. And for people gardening on patios, balconies, or small suburban yards, that's a game changer. Sometimes the secret to growing better carrots isn't having more space. It's having better control over the space you already have. Moving down to number 14, garlic. Garlic may seem like a crop that belongs in large garden beds, but containers often give it major advantages. One of garlic's biggest enemies is excess moisture. Wet soil can quickly lead to fungal disease and bulb rot, especially during colder months. Traditional garden beds sometimes hold far more water than garlic wants. Containers solve that problem beautifully. Potting mixes drain faster, dry more evenly, and give gardeners much better moisture control. That's exactly why many container-grown garlic bulbs end up healthier than those grown in the ground. Another benefit is soil quality. Garlic thrives in loose, fertile soil that allows bulbs to expand easily underground. Containers let you create that perfect environment from day one. And because weeds are easier to control in pots, garlic faces less competition during its long growing cycle. Busy gardeners appreciate crops that quietly grow in the background without demanding constant attention. Garlic does exactly that. Plant the cloves in fall, water occasionally, and let nature do most of the work. Then, months later, you harvest beautiful bulbs with far less digging and soil cleanup than traditional gardening requires. Even better, containers can be moved into protected areas during severe weather, giving garlic extra protection during freezing temperatures or excessive rain. It's one more example of how containers provide flexibility that traditional gardens often can't match. At number 13, we have lettuce. Containers solve one of lettuce's biggest enemies, heat. Traditional garden beds absorb massive amounts of summer warmth, which causes lettuce to bolt quickly and turn bitter. But containers give gardeners mobility, and that changes everything. As temperatures rise, you can simply move lettuce into partial shade during the hottest part of the day. That small advantage can extend your harvest by weeks. Another reason lettuce thrives in containers is pest reduction. Slugs, snails, and soil insects often attack lettuce growing directly in garden beds. Elevated containers make access much harder for many pests, which means cleaner leaves and healthier plants. Busy gardeners also appreciate how convenient container lettuce becomes during harvesting. Instead of walking into the garden every day, fresh salad greens can sit just outside your kitchen door. Snip a few leaves, harvest what you need, and let the plant continue growing. That's exactly the kind of low-effort system people love. Containers also allow for succession planting with almost no hassle. Once one batch finishes, you refill the container and start again. No major soil preparation required. And because lettuce has shallow roots, even relatively small containers can produce impressive harvests. For apartment gardeners, balcony growers, and anyone short on space, container lettuce often becomes one of the easiest and most rewarding crops they grow all season. At number 12, we have radishes. Few vegetables respond to containers as quickly as radishes. In fact, many gardeners discover that radishes grow faster and cleaner in pots than they ever do in traditional garden beds. One reason is soil compaction. Radishes hate hard soil. Compacted ground slows root development and produces small, woody harvests. Containers eliminate that problem. Loose potting mix allows radishes to expand quickly and evenly underground. Another advantage is temperature. Containers warm up earlier in spring, which speeds germination and root growth. That's why some gardeners harvest container radishes in as little as 3 to 4 weeks. It's one of the fastest gardening rewards you can experience. Busy gardeners love quick results because quick results create motivation, and radishes deliver exactly that. Another benefit is cleanliness. Pulling radishes from containers is incredibly easy compared to digging through heavy soil. The roots come out cleaner, smoother, and often more attractive overall. Containers also reduce weed pressure dramatically, which matters because radishes grow so quickly that they hate competition during early growth stages. Even a shallow container can support a surprisingly productive radish crop. That's why so many beginner gardeners succeed with them almost immediately. And once people experience the speed and simplicity of container radishes, many never bother growing them in the ground again. At number 11, we have peppers. This surprises many gardeners, but pepper plants often produce more fruit in containers than they do in the ground. Why? Because peppers actually enjoy slightly restricted root systems. In large garden beds, pepper plants sometimes focus too heavily on leafy growth instead of fruit production. Containers create just enough root restriction to encourage more energy toward peppers instead of oversized foliage. Another advantage is warmth. Pepper plants absolutely love heat, and containers warm up faster than garden soil. Warmer roots mean faster growth, earlier flowering, and heavier production. That's one reason container peppers often outperform their in-ground counterparts, especially in cooler climates. Containers also improve drainage, which peppers appreciate enormously. Wet feet can stunt growth and increase disease risk. Potting mixes reduce that problem significantly. Busy gardeners also benefit from flexibility. Containers can be moved into better sunlight, protected during storms, or repositioned as temperatures change throughout the season. And because peppers naturally grow well in medium-sized containers, even patios and balconies can produce impressive harvests. Many container pepper plants produce dozens of peppers in a single season, with surprisingly little maintenance. That's a remarkable return for such a compact growing space. Sometimes, growing better vegetables isn't about expanding your garden. It's about creating the right conditions in a smaller, more controlled environment. Coming in at number 10 is a plant you actually want to trap: mint. Most gardeners don't struggle to grow mint. They struggle to stop it. That's exactly why containers are often the best possible place for this aggressive plant. In traditional garden beds, mint spreads rapidly through underground runners, quickly invading nearby spaces and competing with other vegetables. What begins as a small herb patch can easily become a garden takeover. Containers solve that problem immediately. Instead of fighting to control mint, you simply give it its own contained environment where it can grow freely without causing chaos. And once mint has that space, it thrives with very little effort. The plant grows quickly, recovers rapidly after harvesting, and tolerates occasional neglect surprisingly well. Busy gardeners love crops that continue producing even when life gets hectic, and mint does exactly that. Another advantage is accessibility. A container placed near the kitchen door means fresh mint is always within reach for tea, desserts, salads, drinks, or sauces. And because containers improve drainage, mint often develops healthier roots compared to plants growing in overly wet garden soil. The plant also benefits from slightly warmer soil temperatures in containers, which helps encourage faster growth during cooler parts of the season. Many gardeners eventually realize something surprising about mint. Containers don't limit it. Containers actually help it perform better by controlling its environment while preventing competition from surrounding plants. That's why so many experienced gardeners refuse to grow mint directly in the ground ever again. At number 9, we have green onions. Some vegetables need large gardens to succeed. Green onions are not one of them. In fact, they may be one of the most container-friendly crops on this entire list. Their compact root systems allow gardeners to grow them densely in relatively small pots, which means even tiny balconies or patios can produce impressive harvests. Another major advantage is convenience. Instead of walking out to a distant garden bed every time you need fresh onions, container-grown green onions can sit just steps away from your kitchen. That's especially valuable for busy gardeners who want quick access to fresh ingredients without extra work. Containers also improve soil control. Green onions prefer loose, fertile soil with good drainage, and potting mixes create exactly that environment. They grow quickly, recover rapidly after harvesting, and can even regrow from kitchen scraps. That's one reason they feel almost endless once established. Another hidden benefit is cleanliness. Rain and muddy garden beds often splash soil onto onion leaves, but elevated containers keep the plants cleaner and easier to harvest. And because green onions grow vertically, they maximize production while taking up very little horizontal space. A single rectangular planter can hold dozens of plants. For urban gardeners, apartment growers, and anyone working with limited space, container-grown green onions often become one of the most reliable and productive crops in the entire garden. At number 8, we have potatoes. Harvesting potatoes in containers feels almost like digging for treasure. And surprisingly, many gardeners discover that containers actually simplify potato growing in almost every possible way. Traditional garden beds can make potato harvesting messy and labor-intensive. Dig too aggressively, and you accidentally damage the crop underground. Containers eliminate much of that problem. Instead of digging through heavy soil, you simply dump the container or grow bag and collect the potatoes directly. It's cleaner, easier, and far more satisfying. Another major advantage is pest reduction. Potatoes growing in the ground are more vulnerable to soil-borne diseases and pests that can damage developing tubers. Fresh container soil helps reduce many of those issues. Grow bags also improve drainage dramatically, which potatoes appreciate because overly wet soil increases the risk of rot. Busy gardeners especially love the flexibility of container potatoes. You can position them in the sunniest areas of the yard, move them if necessary, and even grow them in spaces where traditional gardening would be impossible. Another benefit is space efficiency. Potatoes naturally grow vertically when hilled properly, which means containers allow gardeners to maximize production in a surprisingly small footprint. And few gardening experiences feel as rewarding as tipping over a grow bag and discovering dozens of potatoes hidden inside. It's one of the simplest ways to make gardening feel exciting again. At number 7, we have cucumbers. Cucumbers often struggle in traditional garden beds because poor airflow creates the perfect environment for mildew and fungal disease. Containers solve much of that problem immediately. When cucumbers are grown vertically in pots with a trellis, airflow improves dramatically around the leaves. Better airflow means healthier plants and fewer disease problems throughout the season. That's one reason container cucumbers frequently outperform ground-grown plants. Another advantage is space efficiency. Instead of sprawling across large sections of the garden, container cucumbers grow upward, making them ideal for patios, balconies, and compact backyards. Busy gardeners love systems that maximize production while minimizing maintenance, and vertical container cucumbers do exactly that. Harvesting also becomes easier because the fruit hangs visibly from the vine rather than hiding beneath tangled leaves on the ground. Cleaner fruit is another bonus. Cucumbers resting directly on soil often develop rot, pest damage, or discoloration, but container-grown vines keep the fruit elevated and healthier overall. Containers also warm up faster in spring, encouraging earlier growth and faster establishment. And because watering can be controlled more precisely, gardeners reduce the risk of stress caused by inconsistent soil moisture. A single healthy cucumber plant in a container can produce an impressive amount of food over the course of a season. That's why so many gardeners are shocked by how productive container cucumbers can become once they're given vertical support and proper sunlight. At number 6, we have eggplant. Eggplants absolutely love warm soil. That's one reason they often grow better in containers than they do in the ground. Traditional garden beds warm slowly in spring, especially in cooler climates. Containers heat up much faster, creating the warm root environment eggplants crave. That extra warmth leads to faster growth, earlier flowering, and often heavier fruit production. Another advantage is drainage. Eggplants dislike soggy soil, and containers give gardeners much more control over moisture levels. Healthy roots create healthier plants, and healthier plants produce more fruit. Busy gardeners also appreciate the flexibility containers provide. Eggplants need full sun, and pots can easily be repositioned throughout the season to maximize light exposure. That's far harder to do with fixed garden beds. Another benefit is appearance. Eggplants are surprisingly ornamental plants with beautiful purple flowers and glossy fruit, which makes them perfect for patios and decorative container gardens. And despite their elegant appearance, they're far tougher than many people expect. Once established, eggplants tolerate heat extremely well and continue producing steadily through the hottest parts of summer. Many gardeners are surprised by how productive a single container-grown eggplant can become. Under the right conditions, one plant can produce harvest after harvest for months. It's another example of how smaller growing spaces sometimes create better results than large traditional gardens ever could. At number 5, we have cherry tomatoes. Many gardeners struggle with large slicing tomatoes and assume tomatoes simply aren't meant for containers. But cherry tomatoes completely change that story. In fact, many cherry tomato varieties actually perform better in containers than they do in the ground. One reason is disease control. Traditional garden beds often expose tomatoes to soil-borne fungi, splashing rainwater, and inconsistent drainage that increase disease pressure throughout the season. Containers create a far more controlled environment. Better drainage keeps roots healthier, while elevated plants experience improved airflow around the leaves. That airflow matters because tomatoes are highly vulnerable to fungal diseases in humid conditions. Another advantage is root management. Cherry tomatoes naturally produce smaller fruit, so they place less stress on container root systems compared to giant beefsteak varieties. That means the plants can focus more energy on continuous fruit production instead of struggling to support oversized tomatoes. Busy gardeners also love how productive cherry tomatoes become in compact spaces. A single healthy plant can produce hundreds of small tomatoes throughout the season. And because the fruit ripens gradually, harvesting becomes an ongoing reward rather than one massive event. Containers also make support systems easier to manage. A simple tomato cage or stake inside a pot keeps the plant upright while saving valuable garden space. For balconies, patios, and suburban yards, container cherry tomatoes often become one of the most productive crops people grow all year. And once gardeners experience how easy and rewarding they are, many never return to growing large tomatoes in traditional beds. At number 4, we have bush beans. Bush beans already have a reputation for being easy to grow, but containers make them even more efficient. Unlike pole beans, bush beans stay compact and manageable, which makes them naturally suited for container gardening. They don't demand tall trellises or complicated support structures. Instead, they quietly grow into productive little plants that fill containers with flowers and pods surprisingly quickly. Another major advantage is warmth. Bush beans germinate and establish faster in warm soil, and containers heat up much more rapidly than traditional garden beds during spring. Faster soil warming means earlier growth and often earlier harvests. Busy gardeners love crops that produce quickly because fast results create momentum and motivation. Another benefit is cleanliness. Pods hanging above container soil stay cleaner and are easier to harvest than beans tangled in muddy garden beds after rainstorms. Containers also improve weed control dramatically, which matters because bush beans prefer minimal root competition during early growth stages. And because they naturally grow in dense clusters, even a medium-sized container can produce an impressive harvest in a surprisingly small area. Some gardeners are shocked by how many meals they can harvest from just a few pots of bush beans. That's exactly why they deserve a place on this list. Containers simplify nearly every part of the growing process while still delivering reliable production. Breaking into the top 3, let's talk about spinach. Traditional garden beds create one major problem for spinach: heat buildup. As temperatures rise, spinach bolts quickly, turning bitter and ending the harvest far sooner than gardeners want. Containers solve that problem beautifully because they provide mobility. Instead of leaving spinach trapped in full sun during hot afternoons, gardeners can simply move containers into partial shade. That flexibility can extend the harvest window significantly. Another advantage is pest control. Ground-grown spinach often attracts slugs and soil insects that damage delicate leaves. Elevated containers reduce many of those issues while keeping leaves cleaner overall. Busy gardeners also appreciate how simple succession planting becomes in containers. Once one batch finishes, another can immediately replace it without major soil preparation or garden cleanup. That's one reason container spinach often feels more productive than spinach grown directly in the ground. Another hidden advantage is moisture control. Spinach prefers consistent moisture, but hates soggy roots. Containers with quality potting mix allow gardeners to maintain that balance far more effectively than unpredictable garden soil. And because spinach has relatively shallow roots, it grows surprisingly well in modest-sized containers. For apartment gardeners, patio growers, and people with limited backyard space, spinach proves that impressive harvests don't require massive gardens. Sometimes all you need is a pot, good soil, and the ability to move the plant when conditions change. At number 2, we have strawberries. After growing strawberries in containers, many gardeners never return to growing them in the ground again. And honestly, it's easy to understand why. Traditional garden beds expose strawberries to countless problems. Slugs damage the fruit. Soil splashes onto berries during rainstorms. Rot develops where strawberries touch wet ground. Containers eliminate nearly all of those issues at once. Elevated berries stay cleaner, healthier, and easier to harvest. Another huge advantage is pest reduction. Keeping strawberries off the ground makes it harder for insects and animals to reach the fruit before you do. Busy gardeners also love the convenience factor. Hanging baskets, vertical towers, and patio containers place strawberries at a comfortable harvesting height, instead of forcing gardeners to bend down constantly. Another benefit is runner control. Strawberries naturally spread aggressively in garden beds, which can quickly turn maintenance into a headache. Containers keep the plants organized and manageable while still allowing excellent production. And because strawberries prefer well-drained soil, containers often create healthier root conditions than heavy ground soil ever could. A few carefully placed strawberry pots can produce an astonishing amount of fruit in very little space. That's why container strawberries have become so popular among urban gardeners and suburban homeowners alike. Sometimes growing better fruit isn't about expanding outward. It's about growing smarter upward. And finally, taking the crown at number 1, basil. If there is one edible plant that truly seems designed for containers, this is it. Basil absolutely thrives in the warm, controlled conditions that containers provide. Traditional garden beds often hold too much moisture around the roots, especially after heavy rain. Basil hates that. Wet feet quickly lead to stress, disease, and poor growth. Containers solve the problem immediately with superior drainage and faster soil warming. Warm roots make basil incredibly happy, and happy basil becomes wildly productive. Another reason basil performs so well in containers is airflow. Proper air circulation helps reduce fungal issues, while encouraging healthier leaf production throughout the season. Busy gardeners especially love how easy basil becomes to harvest in pots. Place a container near the kitchen, and fresh leaves are always within reach for pasta, salads, sandwiches, pizza, sauces, and countless other meals. The more you harvest basil, the bushier and more productive it often becomes. That's one reason a single healthy basil plant can provide fresh herbs for months. Another hidden advantage is mobility. Containers can be repositioned to maximize sunlight or protected during severe weather. That flexibility creates stronger plants and longer harvests. And unlike sprawling garden crops that demand huge amounts of space, basil stays compact while delivering continuous rewards. It's the perfect example of how containers don't limit production. Sometimes they unlock it. The biggest mistake many gardeners make is assuming bigger gardens automatically produce better harvests. But sometimes, smaller spaces create better growing conditions. Better drainage, better airflow, better soil control, fewer weeds, fewer pests, and far more flexibility. That's why so many vegetables actually thrive in containers. You don't need acres of land to grow impressive amounts of food. Sometimes a few well-placed pots can outperform an entire garden bed. And once you experience how productive container gardening can become, you'll start seeing patios, balconies, porches, and sunny corners in a completely different way. Because successful gardening isn't always about having more space. Sometimes it's simply about using space more intelligently.
But don't go anywhere just yet, because our Container Orchard Masterclass is far from over. Right now, let's dive into the next 15 container vegetables summer heat-loving. Let's get started.
Kicking off our summer survival list at number 15 is Swiss chard. Most gardeners think of leafy greens as cool season crops, which is why many people are surprised by how well Swiss chard handles summer heat. While lettuce often bolts and spinach quickly declines when temperatures rise, Swiss chard continues pushing out fresh leaves long after other greens have given up. One reason Swiss chard performs so well in hot weather is its deep, vigorous root system. Even in containers, the plant develops strong roots that help it access moisture more efficiently than many shallow-rooted salad greens. As a result, it remains productive through periods of heat that would normally stress other leafy vegetables. Container gardeners especially appreciate how dependable Swiss chard can be. A single plant can grow surprisingly large while continuously producing new foliage. Instead of harvesting the entire plant, gardeners simply remove the outer leaves and allow the center to keep growing. This cut-and-come-again habit means one container can provide fresh greens for months. Another advantage is its resilience. Hot afternoons, fluctuating temperatures, and occasional mist waterings are often less damaging to Swiss chard than they are to many other leafy crops. While consistent moisture is still important, the plant tends to recover quickly from minor stress and keeps producing when conditions improve. Of course, Swiss chard isn't just productive, it's also beautiful. Many varieties feature brilliant stems in shades of red, yellow, orange, pink, and white. During the peak of summer, when some containers begin looking tired, Swiss chard often becomes one of the most attractive plants in the entire garden. Perhaps the best thing about Swiss chard is that it proves leafy greens don't have to disappear when summer arrives. While other salad crops may retreat from the heat, Swiss chard keeps growing, keeps producing, and keeps filling harvest baskets long after the hottest part of the season begins. Moving down to number 14, we have Malabar spinach. Despite its name, Malabar spinach isn't actually spinach at all. That's good news for summer gardeners, because true spinach is notorious for struggling in hot weather. Malabar spinach does the exact opposite. As temperatures rise and other leafy greens begin to fade, this tropical vine seems to shift into high gear. Native to warm regions of Asia and Africa, Malabar spinach evolved in climates where heat and humidity are part of everyday life. Instead of merely surviving summer, it actively prefers it. In fact, many gardeners notice that growth remains slow during cool spring weather, only to explode once the real heat arrives. One of the reasons this plant is so impressive in containers is its vigorous climbing habit. Given a trellis, cage, or simple support, the vines can quickly stretch several feet upward, transforming a small container into a wall of edible greenery. This vertical growth allows gardeners to harvest a tremendous amount of food from a surprisingly small footprint. The leaves are thick, glossy, and succulent, helping the plant conserve moisture during hot weather. Unlike traditional spinach, which quickly bolts and becomes unusable in summer, Malabar spinach continues producing fresh foliage for months. The leaves can be eaten raw when young or cooked like spinach in soups, stir-fries, and curries. Regular harvesting actually makes the plant even more productive. By snipping growing tips and young shoots, gardeners encourage branching, which creates even more harvestable growth. Before long, a single plant can become one of the most productive containers in the entire garden. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about Malabar spinach is how it changes the summer gardening equation. Instead of fighting the heat, it embraces it. While many greens struggle to survive July and August, this tropical climber often reaches its peak performance exactly when temperatures are at their highest. Securing the 13th spot are collard greens. Most people associate collards with cool season gardening, but experienced southern gardeners know a different story. Few leafy vegetables can tolerate prolonged heat as reliably as collard greens. While they may not grow quite as explosively during summer as they do in spring, they continue producing large, nutritious leaves long after many other greens have failed. Collards belong to the same family as kale, cabbage, and broccoli, but they're often far tougher than their relatives. Their large leaves are built to withstand challenging conditions, including strong sunlight and high temperatures. That's one reason they've been grown for generations throughout the American South, where summer heat can be relentless. Container gardeners benefit from this toughness. Once established, collards develop a sturdy root system and become remarkably resilient. Even during periods of intense heat, they often maintain healthy growth, while other leafy vegetables begin showing signs of stress. Unlike lettuce, which is typically harvested all at once, collards reward a gradual harvesting approach. Gardeners simply remove the oldest leaves from the bottom of the plant while allowing the center to continue producing new growth. This creates a continuous harvest cycle that can last for months. Another advantage is their nutritional value. The large leaves are packed with vitamins, minerals, and fiber, making them one of the most nutrient-dense vegetables a gardener can grow. A few plants in containers can provide a surprisingly substantial harvest throughout the growing season. Perhaps the most impressive thing about collard greens is their endurance. Many vegetables perform well when conditions are ideal, Collards continue working when conditions are far from ideal. Through heat waves, blazing sun, and long summer afternoons, they quietly keep producing leaf after leaf, proving why they've remained a trusted crop for generations of gardeners. For number 12, we look at an herb that thrives on neglect: rosemary. If there were an award for the toughest herb in a container garden, rosemary would be a strong contender. While many plants struggle through the hottest weeks of summer, rosemary often seems completely unfazed. In fact, the combination of intense sunlight, dry conditions, and high temperatures is exactly what this Mediterranean herb evolved to handle. Native to the rocky hillsides of the Mediterranean region, rosemary is naturally adapted to environments where rainfall can be scarce and summer temperatures can be relentless. Its needle-like leaves help reduce moisture loss, allowing the plant to remain healthy even when conditions become challenging. This built-in drought tolerance is one reason gardeners frequently describe rosemary as one of the easiest heat-loving plants to grow. Container gardening is particularly well suited to rosemary because the plant prefers excellent drainage. While many vegetables demand consistently moist soil, rosemary is far happier when excess water drains away quickly. A sunny patio, balcony, or deck often provides nearly perfect growing conditions. Another reason rosemary thrives in summer is that heat actually improves its flavor. The aromatic oils responsible for its distinctive fragrance become more concentrated during warm weather. As temperatures rise, the leaves develop an even stronger scent and richer flavor, making summer one of the best times to harvest. Unlike fast-growing annual herbs that need constant replanting, rosemary gradually becomes larger and more productive over time. A young plant can eventually develop into a beautiful shrub-like specimen that provides harvests for years. Many gardeners find that one healthy rosemary plant supplies more than enough fresh herbs for an entire household. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about rosemary is how little it asks for in return. Give it sunlight, decent drainage, and occasional watering, and it often rewards you with year-round beauty, fragrance, and harvests. When summer temperatures become uncomfortable for both gardeners and plants, rosemary is usually just getting started. Sitting securely at number 11 is thyme. If rosemary is tough, thyme might be even tougher. This low-growing Mediterranean herb has built its reputation on surviving conditions that would cause many other plants to fail. Hot sun, dry soil, and weeks without significant rainfall rarely stop thyme from performing at its best. One look at the plant helps explain why. Thyme produces tiny leaves that lose very little moisture to the atmosphere. This adaptation allows it to conserve water extremely efficiently, making it one of the most drought-tolerant herbs available to container gardeners. During the hottest part of summer, when some plants begin wilting by midday, thyme often continues growing as if nothing has changed. Container gardeners love thyme because it thrives in places where other herbs might struggle. It performs exceptionally well in small pots, window boxes, and even shallow containers. Its compact growth habit means it doesn't demand much space, making it an excellent choice for gardeners working with balconies or limited growing areas. Heat doesn't just help thyme survive, it improves it. Just like rosemary, the essential oils responsible for its flavor become more concentrated during warm weather. The result is stronger fragrance, richer flavor, and a more aromatic harvest throughout summer. Another advantage is the plant's versatility. Thyme can spill beautifully over the edges of containers, act as a companion plant for vegetables, or serve as a dedicated culinary herb. Frequent harvesting encourages fresh growth, ensuring a continuous supply of tender stems and leaves. Perhaps the most impressive thing about thyme is its resilience. Many gardeners spend summer worrying about keeping plants alive. Thyme often eliminates that worry altogether. It simply keeps growing, keeps producing, and keeps proving why Mediterranean herbs remain some of the most reliable choices for hot weather container gardens. We are officially breaking into our top 10. So far, we've covered some incredible heat-resistant greens and tough Mediterranean herbs. Before we move on, let me know down in the comments, what is the absolute hottest temperature your container garden reaches during the summer? I read every single comment. Now, let's look at a classic summer herb that actually tastes better in the heat. Breaking into our top 10 is sweet basil. Few plants capture the feeling of summer quite like basil. From fresh pesto to garden-fresh salads, it's one of the most popular herbs in the world. But beyond its culinary reputation, basil is also surprisingly well adapted to hot weather. While many leafy crops begin struggling as temperatures climb, basil often responds with faster growth, larger leaves, and stronger flavor. Originally native to tropical regions, basil thrives when temperatures consistently stay warm. In fact, many gardeners notice that the plant seems to sit still during cool spring weather, only to suddenly take off once summer heat arrives. Warm days, warm nights, and plenty of sunshine create the perfect conditions for rapid growth. Container gardeners especially appreciate basil because it remains compact while producing a tremendous amount of foliage. A single healthy plant can provide continuous harvests throughout the growing season. Whether grown in a patio pot, balcony planter, or raised container bed, basil quickly becomes one of the hardest working plants in the garden. One of the secrets to keeping basil productive is regular harvesting. Instead of removing individual leaves, experienced gardeners pinch off the growing tips. This encourages branching, creating a fuller, bushier plant with significantly more harvestable foliage. The more consistently it's harvested, the more productive it often becomes. Heat also improves one of basil's greatest strengths, its aroma. The essential oils responsible for its famous fragrance become more concentrated during warm weather. On a hot summer afternoon, simply brushing against the leaves can release an incredible burst of scent. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about basil is how quickly it rewards gardeners. A small seedling planted at the beginning of summer can transform into a lush, productive herb within a matter of weeks. While many plants merely survive the heat, basil uses it as fuel for growth, making it one of the best container herbs for the hottest months of the year. Down at number 9, we meet the Armenian cucumber. Despite its name, Armenian cucumber isn't actually a true cucumber. It's a type of melon that's harvested and eaten like a cucumber. That distinction is important because it helps explain why this plant handles extreme summer heat far better than many traditional cucumber varieties. When temperatures climb into the 90s and beyond, ordinary cucumbers often become stressed. Growth slows, production drops, and fruit quality can decline. Armenian cucumbers, on the other hand, continue growing vigorously through conditions that would challenge many other garden crops. In some regions, they're considered one of the most dependable vegetables for hot weather gardening. The plant's vigorous climbing habit makes it particularly well suited to container gardening. Given a sturdy trellis, it quickly grows upward rather than outward, maximizing production while minimizing the amount of space required. A single container and support structure can generate an impressive number of long, slender fruits throughout the season. Another advantage is the fruit itself. Armenian cucumbers are known for their crisp texture, mild flavor, and thin skin. Unlike some traditional cucumbers, they rarely become bitter during hot weather. The fruits can grow surprisingly long while remaining tender and enjoyable to eat. Consistent harvesting encourages even greater production. The more frequently mature fruits are picked, the more energy the plant directs toward creating new ones. During peak summer conditions, gardeners are often surprised by how quickly fresh cucumbers continue appearing. Perhaps the most impressive thing about Armenian cucumber is its reliability. Summer heat waves that slow down other vegetables often have very little impact on its performance. As long as it receives adequate water and sunlight, it continues climbing, flowering, and producing harvest after harvest. For gardeners searching for a cucumber-like crop that truly loves summer, Armenian cucumber is one of the best choices available. Securing the 8th position is the rattlesnake pole bean. When summer heat becomes intense, many bean varieties begin to struggle, producing fewer pods and slowing down significantly. Rattlesnake pole bean is different. This vigorous climbing variety is specifically known for its ability to thrive in hot weather, making it one of the best heat-loving beans for container gardens. What makes this bean stand out is its dual purpose. It grows fast and it produces heavily. Once established, the vines quickly climb any available support, whether it's a trellis, cage, or balcony railing. In a container setup, this vertical growth is a huge advantage because it allows gardeners to produce a large harvest in a very small footprint. During peak summer conditions, rattlesnake pole bean tends to accelerate its growth rather than slow down. Warm nights and strong sunlight encourage rapid flowering, which quickly leads to clusters of long, streaked pods. These pods are not only productive, but also visually striking, with purple streaks running along green skins, making the plant attractive as well as functional. One of the key benefits of this variety is continuous harvesting. The more often the pods are picked while young and tender, the more the plant responds by producing new ones. This creates a steady cycle of growth and harvest throughout the hottest part of the season, when many other vegetables are struggling just to survive. Container gardeners also appreciate how adaptable pole beans are. Even in relatively small pots, a single plant can become a productive vertical wall of greenery. As long as it receives consistent watering and a strong support structure, it can produce a surprisingly large yield over time. Perhaps the most impressive thing about rattlesnake pole bean is its resilience. It doesn't just tolerate summer heat, it often performs best during it. While cooler weather crops fade, this bean continues climbing higher, flowering more, and filling containers with fresh pods week after week. Landing at number 7 is dwarf okra. Specifically compact varieties like Baby Bubba or Little Lucy. If there is one vegetable that truly defines heat-loving gardening, it is okra. Native to warm climates, okra doesn't just survive high temperatures, it thrives in them. In fact, the hotter the summer gets, the more vigorous its growth often becomes. Unlike large traditional okra plants that can dominate a garden space, dwarf varieties are perfect for containers. They stay more compact while still producing the iconic tender pods that are harvested and eaten. This makes them ideal for urban gardeners who want the productivity of okra without needing a large garden bed. One of the most remarkable things about dwarf okra is how quickly it responds to heat. Once summer temperatures rise, growth becomes noticeably faster. Plants that seemed modest in early spring can suddenly transform into productive, upright specimens loaded with flowers and developing pods. The pods themselves develop quickly and should be harvested while still young and tender. Frequent picking not only ensures better texture and flavor, but also stimulates the plant to produce more flowers and continue its production cycle. This makes okra one of the most rewarding continuous harvest crops in hot climates. Container gardeners often find okra surprisingly low maintenance once established. It prefers full sun, tolerates dry spells better than many vegetables, and thrives in conditions that would stress cooler season crops. A single container plant can provide a steady supply of pods throughout the entire summer. Perhaps the most impressive thing about dwarf okra is its attitude toward heat. While many vegetables struggle when temperatures climb into the 90s, okra seems to view those same conditions as ideal growing weather. It stands tall, keeps flowering, and continues producing long after less heat-tolerant crops have given up. Coming in at number 6 are sweet potatoes. Unlike many vegetables that are grown primarily for their roots or fruits, sweet potatoes offer a dual advantage in the garden: edible tubers underground and highly nutritious leafy greens above ground. In hot summer weather, this plant becomes one of the most vigorous and reliable container crops you can grow. Sweet potatoes are naturally adapted to warm climates. As temperatures rise, the vines begin to spread rapidly, producing lush, trailing growth that can quickly spill over the edges of containers. This makes them especially useful for vertical or cascading container setups where space efficiency is important. To get the absolute best harvest of both heat-loving leaves and underground tubers, give them a wide grow bag or a deep tub. That large volume of soil is the secret to protecting the expanding tubers from baking in the summer sun while giving the vines enough room to spread. One of the unique advantages of sweet potatoes is that gardeners don't have to wait until the end of the season to benefit from them. The young leaves and tips can be harvested throughout the summer and used as a nutritious leafy green. They are tender, mild, and can be cooked similarly to spinach, providing a continuous harvest while the plant is still developing its underground tubers. In containers, sweet potatoes thrive when given warm soil, consistent sunlight, and enough space for their vines to expand. While the plant does not require perfect conditions, it responds strongly to heat, often accelerating growth during the hottest months when other crops slow down. This makes it a dependable choice for mid to late summer productivity. Another major advantage is resilience. Sweet potatoes are relatively drought-tolerant once established, which is a key benefit during peak summer heat, when containers can dry out quickly. While regular watering is still important, the plant tends to recover well from brief dry periods and continues growing without major setbacks. Harvesting is flexible. Gardeners can choose to focus on the leaves during the season or wait for a larger root harvest later in the year. This flexibility makes sweet potatoes one of the most versatile, heat-loving crops for container gardens. Perhaps the most impressive thing about sweet potatoes is their ability to turn a single container into a dense, productive green canopy. While many vegetables struggle to maintain growth in extreme heat, sweet potatoes use that same heat as fuel, producing both edible foliage and underground tubers over the course of the season. We are now entering our top 5, the absolute heavy hitters of summer container gardening. If you are tired of your plants wilting and dropping flowers in the afternoon sun, these final 5 are going to completely change your harvests. Let's dive into the elite summer survivors. Claiming the 5th spot is the tomatillo. Often overshadowed by its famous relative, the tomato, tomatillo is actually one of the most reliable, heat-loving fruiting plants for summer container gardening. Native to Mexico and Central America, it evolved in climates where high temperatures and strong sunlight are the norm rather than the exception. In hot weather, tomatillo plants grow vigorously, quickly developing into bushy, productive shrubs. Unlike some tomatoes that can struggle when temperatures remain consistently high, tomatillos often continue flowering and setting fruit even during peak summer heat. This makes them especially valuable for gardeners in warm regions. Container gardeners benefit from the plant's natural productivity. However, there is one crucial rule you must follow. Unlike regular tomatoes, tomatillos are not self-fertile. You must grow at least 2 plants side by side in your container garden to ensure cross-pollination. But once those 2 plants start communicating and pollinating, they explode with growth. While the plant does appreciate staking or cage support, it generally remains easier to manage than many sprawling tomato varieties, making it a good fit for medium to large containers. The fruits develop inside papery husks, giving them a unique appearance that adds visual interest to the garden. As the husks fill out, gardeners can easily identify when fruits are ready for harvest. This simple visual cue makes tomatillos straightforward to grow, even for beginners. Another advantage is their consistent production cycle. Once established, tomatillos continue producing over a long period, especially in warm weather. Regular harvesting encourages further fruiting, extending the productive life of the plant well into late summer. Perhaps the most impressive thing about tomatillos is their reliability in conditions that challenge many other fruiting crops. While some vegetables reduce flowering during heat waves, tomatillos often remain steady, producing a continuous supply of fruit ideal for sauces, salsas, and fresh cooking throughout the summer season. At number 4, we turn up the heat with hot peppers. If there is one group of vegetables that truly loves extreme summer heat, it is chili peppers. While many plants slow down when temperatures rise, peppers often respond with faster growth, more flowers, and a steady increase in fruit production. Originating from warm climates in Central and South America, hot peppers are naturally built for heat tolerance. In container gardens, they perform especially well because the confined root space allows gardeners to control watering and feeding more precisely. With full sun and warm nights, pepper plants quickly become compact, productive bushes loaded with fruit. One of the biggest advantages of growing jalapeno and habanero peppers in containers is their long production season. Once summer heat stabilizes, these plants can continue producing for months, often right up until cooler weather arrives. The more peppers are harvested, the more the plant is encouraged to keep flowering, creating a continuous cycle of production. Jalapenos are known for their reliable, steady yields and moderate heat level, making them a favorite for everyday cooking. Habaneros, on the other hand, thrive in heat even more intensely, producing smaller but extremely hot fruits that develop rich flavor as they ripen on the plant. Both varieties handle summer stress better than many common garden vegetables. Container gardeners also appreciate how manageable pepper plants are. With proper pruning and occasional feeding, they remain compact while still producing a large number of fruits. Even a single container on a balcony or patio can supply enough peppers for a household throughout the entire summer. Perhaps the most impressive thing about hot peppers is that extreme heat actually improves them. While many crops suffer in high temperatures, peppers often become more productive and flavorful, making them one of the most dependable choices for summer container gardens. As we enter the top 3, get ready for eggplant. If peppers are the kings of heat tolerance, eggplant is right beside them as one of the most reliable summer fruiting vegetables. This plant not only survives hot weather, it actively thrives in it, especially when temperatures remain consistently warm both day and night. Because eggplants are heavy producers, planting them in a 5-gallon container or larger is the secret to insulating their root system from the blazing pavement. With enough sunlight and a thick layer of soil to hold moisture, they can produce a steady supply of glossy, nutrient-rich fruits throughout the hottest months. One reason eggplant performs so well is its tropical origin. It evolved in warm climates, where high temperatures are the norm, not the exception. As a result, it maintains steady flowering and fruiting when other vegetables begin to decline. The plant responds especially well to consistent warmth and regular harvesting. In container gardens, compact or dwarf eggplant varieties are often preferred, but even standard types can adapt well with proper care. Staking or light support helps keep the plant stable as fruit develops, while regular watering ensures continuous production during hot spells. The fruits themselves grow quickly once flowers are pollinated. Within a relatively short time, blossoms transform into glossy purple eggplants that are ready for harvest. Picking them regularly encourages the plant to continue producing, extending the harvest period deep into late summer. Perhaps the most impressive thing about eggplant is its resilience in extreme heat. While many vegetables struggle when temperatures stay high for long periods, eggplant often becomes more productive, making it one of the most dependable container crops for the peak of summer. Our runner-up at number 2 is the undisputed king of the summer patio, cherry tomatoes. If summer gardening had a signature crop, this would be it. Cherry tomatoes are one of the most reliable and productive heat-loving vegetables you can grow in containers. Once temperatures rise and the weather stabilizes, these plants often explode with growth, producing clusters of sweet, juicy fruits throughout the entire summer. Tomatoes originally come from warm regions of South America, which is why they respond so well to heat and sunlight. In container gardens, cherry tomato varieties are especially valuable because they combine high productivity with relatively compact growth habits compared to larger slicing tomatoes. With proper support, a single plant can quickly turn into a fruit-filled tower. Now, it is true that extreme heat waves over 90 degrees Fahrenheit can temporarily pause tomato pollination. However, cherry tomatoes bounce back and tolerate summer stress far better than large slicing varieties. Because they are heavy drinkers, providing them with a large 10 to 15-gallon container is the ultimate trick to keeping their root zone cool and moist. With that large soil reservoir, they will keep flowering and setting fruit. Container gardeners also appreciate how adaptable cherry tomatoes can be. They thrive in large pots, grow well with staking or cages, and respond strongly to pruning and training techniques. Even in intense summer heat, they often maintain steady growth, while many other vegetables slow down or stop producing entirely. The fruits themselves are one of the most rewarding parts of summer gardening. Small, sweet, and bursting with flavor, cherry tomatoes ripen in clusters that seem to appear almost overnight once the plant gets going. A single container can easily supply a steady stream of fresh harvests for salads, snacks, and cooking throughout the season. Perhaps the most impressive thing about cherry tomatoes is their reliability. In most hot climates, they are considered the backbone of the summer vegetable garden because they simply refuse to stop producing once conditions are right. Finally, taking the absolute crown at number 1 are southern cowpeas, also known as black-eyed peas. While many gardeners immediately think of tomatoes or peppers when they hear heat-loving vegetables, cowpeas are in a different category entirely. These plants are not just tolerant of heat, they are built for it. Originating in Africa and widely grown in the southern United States, cowpeas are naturally adapted to survive and thrive in extreme heat, poor soil, and dry conditions. In fact, when temperatures rise and rainfall becomes inconsistent, many other vegetables struggle, but cowpeas often continue growing with very little stress. In container gardens, bush-type cowpeas are especially effective. They form compact plants that quickly produce pods filled with the familiar black-eyed seeds. The more frequently these pods are harvested, the more the plant responds by producing additional flowers and new pods, ensuring a steady summer harvest. One of the most impressive qualities of cowpeas is their ability to perform when other crops fail. While lettuce bolts, spinach collapses, and even some tomatoes slow down, cowpeas continue to grow steadily in intense heat. This resilience makes them one of the most dependable survival crops for hot summer climates. They also improve soil conditions by fixing nitrogen, which benefits surrounding plants if grown in mixed containers or garden systems. This makes them not only productive, but also valuable for overall garden health. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about southern cowpeas is their attitude toward extreme weather. They don't just tolerate heat waves, they thrive in them. While many gardeners struggle to keep plants alive in peak summer conditions, cowpeas often look their best when the sun is at its strongest. Now, before we wrap up, I promised you a secret trick to keep your container garden thriving in extreme heat. I call it the soil sunscreen trick. The biggest mistake beginner container gardeners make is leaving their potting soil exposed to the direct sun. Dark soil absorbs heat like a magnet, baking the roots and evaporating moisture instantly. The secret is to mulch your containers just like you would a raised bed. Add a 2-inch layer of light-colored mulch, like straw or light wood chips, over the surface of the soil. This light layer reflects the sun's rays, drops the soil temperature by several degrees, and traps the moisture inside the pot. Your plants will stay cool, and you will literally cut your watering chores in half. As we've seen throughout this countdown, summer heat doesn't have to mean a struggling garden. The key is choosing the right plants and protecting their roots. Instead of fighting the heat with cool weather crops, work alongside nature. When you plant these 15 survivors and use smart container setups, your patio stops being a sunburned wasteland and transforms into a thriving, highly productive summer oasis. If this video helped you prepare for the summer heat, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next garden.